Good morning. It is the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization, Locked On Big 12, and right here on Westwood One Sports. 310-840-4910. Yesterday, over a dozen calls and texts about LeBron James and the L word, legacy, where he will rank if he wins a title with the Philadelphia 76ers, and whether or not he can eclipse Michael Jordan. As Pete Souza has noted, that is the goal, and he joins the show again today, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. Pete Souza alongside Addie Bates.
Drake Toll, what's happening, brother?
Good morning, Pete. Good morning, Addie. Good morning, Laura. Addie, fresh off the boat from London, England. Addie, good to have you back.
Do I have an accent? Do you think I? No. Unfortunately, I.
It's creeping
Hello,
through
bruv.
a little bit.
Hello, bruv. Cheeky.
You're starting to look like the fourth member of the band Oasis. You got kind of like this Oasis thing going on here. Wow.
I brushed my hair today.
She's back. Hopefully, over the course of your 7 days in England, you didn't forget what the real football is, by the way, because that is where we're starting today. We're still good on that. We're still, what's the number one sport? Come on.
Football with the hands. The one with pigskin. That one.
Americano. Thank you very much. Absolutely. There we go. And that is where we'll lead off. Now, look, 310-840-4910. That stays open all day long today. You can call or text the show, 310-840-4910, as we jump deep into training camp. Every team is on site today. The NFL season doesn't kick off for another month and some change, but we'll get the Jerry Jones experiment. We'll get the circus. We'll get every team, every player reporting, and the players that do not report, the players that don't show up, that don't do it, like Vita, who requested a trade in the middle of the night last night. Or shocking news, breaking news in the middle of the night, like Jamal Adams, three-time Pro Bowler, joining the Minnesota Vikings. All of that and more today. But where we have to start is tragic news out of Kansas City and their training camp yesterday with Eric Bieniemy. And one of the stranger stories you will find out of an NFL training camp as it pertains to, again, that word tragedy. So this happened Sunday, July 26th, 7:32 p.m. Eastern Time. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office receives a 911 call placed by Mia Bieniemy. This is the wife of Kansas City offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, reporting a shooting at the family's residence, North Park Drive, Ashburn, Virginia. Deputies arrive. 57-year-old Mia Bieniemy suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, chest and arm. She's transported to the hospital, and their 27-year-old son, this is the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, and his wife Mia, and their 27-year-old son involved. It was Elijah Zion Bieniemy who was located inside the home, and their son taken into custody for shooting his mother. Yesterday, he was officially booked early in the morning, and the Chiefs head coach Andy Reid addressed the media midday yesterday in St. Joseph, Missouri at their training camp, confirming Bieniemy had immediately left the team to travel to Virginia, be with his family, and Reid said the updates on Mia Bieniemy are positive and she's in stable condition. We talked a lot yesterday, Pete, about how Patrick Mahomes will be ready in full tilt for training camp, how Patrick Mahomes will be ready to go for week one of the NFL season. There are layers and pieces to this one. A Bieniemy who stepped away years ago to bet on himself, wanted to be an NFL head coach, didn't pan out, goes to UCLA as an offensive coordinator. He's back in Kansas City, one of the orchestrators of the KC dynasty. And immediately going into training camp, he's away from training camp.
Well, and here's one of the keys to this story. This is basically, and as so many times in Andy Reid's career it's a family affair. He and Eric Bieniemy go all the way back to 1999 when he was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Bieniemy was one of those guys. Remember, this was a season that was, the Eagles were 2-14, and it was Reid's first ever year as a head coach. And I say that to say Eric Bieniemy's like a son to him. That's when the two of them crossed paths for the first time. Clearly, Reid saw the light in Bieniemy's eye, and the two have been together since. This would be their 11th year together, outside of 1 year where Bieniemy was, or the 2 years Bieniemy was Washington and then UCLA.
Yep.
This is also an unfortunate deja vu for Andy Reid. In 2012, training camp opens in Lehigh, and his two sons had struggled with drugs and alcohol addiction publicly. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I knew the story
Yeah.
because when he was the coach of the Eagles, it was highly publicized. And one of his sons actually overdosed at Lehigh University right at the start of Eagles camp. And Andy Reid obviously had to leave camp. And when I got this news yesterday, and, we had talked about it, it was just ridiculously eerie as to what had happened all the way back at Lehigh University at that Eagles training camp. And, Andy Reid's sons, as I mentioned, had struggled with alcohol and drugs. His son, Britt, who is surviving, is still sober. And I talked to him last year. I had him on the podcast I have about sobriety called The Payoff. And he walked us through that moment and that tragedy. And, man, I mean, Drake, this just feels like the same thing. And I think the one – I don't even think you call it a silver lining in a situation like this, but
Right.
you can find a little bit of solace in that what Andy Reid has gone through with his family, right? And in a similar circumstance, in a similar time of year, in a similar sport, on a similar day, he can grab Eric Bieniemy's hand and kind of guide him through some of this stuff. But, I mean, what an absolute tragedy. I know when we got the news yesterday, we were on a text thread, and it gives perspective to all this stuff. And I'm sure the way that the Chiefs see it, Eric Bieniemy is away from the team right now. Andy Reid talked to the press yesterday, calling Maya Bieniemy an angel. She's clearly family because she, like Eric, has been with the Chiefs organization for more than a decade. I mean, that's the family that they have intact there. He called her a saint. So it's just a harrowing incident. But another incident that gives us perspective on sports, and also another incident where this is a sport that brings people closer together. And these are the moments that do it.
It is the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. Pete Souza co-hosting Drake Toll with you, and we're in training camp now across the NFL, and tragedy striking the Kansas City Chiefs, talking to their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, his wife shot on Sunday by their son, as reports started to surface yesterday. And as they did, Andy Reid took the podium. We have the audio of him addressing the media in regards to the shooting. And there is some controversy over how Reid, at least if you just read the transcript, there are NFL fans going haywire over this. Here's what he had to say and why it ended up being controversial.
This is, our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy and his family. Thoughts and prayers are with them. I can't get into details on it. But things happen sometimes, and Eric will work through it. He's got a great support group here, as does his family, as needed, and then we'll just let time take care of it from there. But Mia is stable, which is a plus, and so is Eric Jr., and that's all important. All right.
Pete, the quote, if you just read it, and a lot of people on Twitter did, says, "We'll just see how things go. This is real life. You take care of that. She's a saint, one of God's blessings, but things happen." People pinpointed to the line, "but things happen," as this crass, out-of-touch way for Andy Reid, the head coach, Super Bowl champion of the Chiefs, to approach this, which I think is completely tone-deaf for those who are looking at Andy Reid as somebody who's handling the situation incorrectly.
Well, look, I mean, you hate to even roll around the mud with these people, but you have to acknowledge it because that's what we do and that's our job. That's why we're here on mornings like this, and we have heavy lifts like this. Can't imagine what that family is going through, right? But when you hear him say that, and you literally see the footage, right, and Andy Reid, that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Yep.
And now we're just totally parsing apart this guy's dialect. People have a different way of speaking, and I believe, knowing Andy Reid like I do, when he says things happen, he means no matter what. Like things happen. No matter what, we're together.
Yep.
No matter what, we're going to love them and support them. No matter what, we're going to get through this. It happened. Now here we are. How are we going to handle it now? It was a little gruff. You probably could pick, some other words, right? If you give him to do it over again, and he knew this was going to be the result, but at the same time, I don't get lost in the sauce like that, and I know you don't either. But that's what people are talking about right now.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Pete. A perfect way to break down that Andy Reid has been through something so similar before, has seen this in a similar time where you're preparing for everybody to come back. There's the air around training camp. And in talking to different coaches, past coaches from the league this week, training camp is the time where you saw it from John Harbaugh last week, where he enters the team room for the first time with everybody and says, "You're the New York Giants." The New York Giants. There are brand new coaches, first-year coaches in different franchises who are going to test out how they can approach their locker room and they can approach team meetings. And there's an air of nervousness alongside excitement for a lot of these franchises. For Andy Reid, in the middle of that air of nervousness and excitement 15 years ago, his son died. And now in that same timeline, Eric Bieniemy is offensive coordinator who's making his return to Kansas City, sees his wife shot by their son, allegedly by their son, and now Kansas City will grapple with that.
And also, too, there's a ton of rumors around what happened, around why it happened. And, obviously, just about everybody but us and everybody else in the general public, and obviously we're talking about masses of people, but I say that to say there are people who know what happened. It seems as though the sheriff knows what happened.
Yeah.
I was watching all the news reports yesterday. I've reached out to friends in the NFL. My defensive line coach at Richmond, the guy who recruited me to play college football, is Joe Cohen, and he's the defensive line coach of that staff. And I just sent him a text message, "Hey, thinking about you guys yesterday. Thank you." You get that back, but you know that like everyone there is just kind of coming together, and besides what the rumors are, and you get the feeling, and this is anything you do that's called speculating is guessing. But everything I read yesterday said mental health, drug addiction, but nothing has been confirmed. Something along those lines leading to this, right? But none of that's confirmed. The bottom line is, it feels like something that nobody wants to talk about, that there are reports that everybody knows what it is in the building. The police know, but they're unable to talk about it. We obviously can't confirm it, and we don't want to speculate any further. But my point in saying that is there's a tone there that this is a familiar foe for this organization. And it's something of the addiction, of the mental health world, you would think at first glance, or at least upon getting some of these first reports.
Tough to segue out of this one, but let's keep it in training camp on the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you alongside Pete Souza, 310-840-4910. You can call or text the show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Time and listen live on Sirius XM 375, the Drake Toll Show YouTube channel, or that Westwood One Sports app. You just mentioned not knowing a lot of details and not wanting to speculate. Yesterday, Pete, when we talked about Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, getting into a car wreck on July 14th, 2 weeks ago, we didn't have much to speculate about or very much information. Since then, the Pablo Torres of the world have done their digging, and these Twitter private investigators have done their digging. Crash course, July 14th, Palo Alto, California. Head coach of the 49ers. 11 days later is when the accident is disclosed to the public. The first thing a lot of people pointed to is a collision involving a Tesla and an SUV. Both drivers wore seatbelts, airbags deployed. 21-year-old woman was the other driver, walked away without being hospitalized. Shanahan, trauma, concussion, broken nose, broken ribs, broken hand, 40 facial stitches. And now public government records and reports are indicating that Shanahan was holding and using a cell phone at the time of the crash, violating California vehicle codes. So, Pete, not only do we have head coach of an NFL team gets in head-on collision that tears him up pretty badly, but head coach of an NFL team was also holding cell phone while doing this. So we have nefarious act, alleged nefarious act in middle of massive car wreck in Palo Alto, which is, it's hard to hide things there, yet somehow we, the public, didn't know about it for 11 days. It gets fishier and fishier as new details come out.
Yeah, and this is another dicey one, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan was in what could have been a tragedy, and he alluded this ultimate demise. And listening to Chris Sims yesterday, who's really good friends with Kyle Shanahan, they were on vacation together just a few weeks prior. It's very clear that he was totally rocked by this. And there's a lot of talk out of the 49ers camp. And when I say Kyle Shanahan's camp, I mean people like Sims. And it was almost as though he didn't come to the surface to speak about this, and it wasn't revealed because it was so awful, right? But the more you look at this, it seems as though there was like a junior Ray Donovan situation where like something like this happened. It's really close to the facility. The 49ers, having worked for a pro sports team, right? When you get, and I did PR for the Sixers, I did PR for the Charlotte Hornets, and there is an affiliation with law enforcement. I mean, you have a member of law enforcement who's basically embedded with your roster all year long, at least one, like police officer, right, who travels with you, who's at practices, and that's your guy when something happens. And when you're an organization like the 49ers, you certainly got tentacles everywhere. So something like this happens close to the facility, the bat signal goes up, and everybody comes together. And I don't think the 49ers handled this like they should have. I think the 49ers have to understand that, one, regardless of what's going on, regardless of Kyle Shanahan's mental health, regardless of if or he was or wasn't on a cell phone, Kyle Shanahan's special, and he can call a hell of a game. But he's no different than you or I. And if you or I get into an accident around that stadium that is almost life-ending, that goes right away. That's public information. And the 49ers know. Now, it was public information, right? But the 49ers know that. And a 13-day delay on the reporting of this, again, I go back to that HBO series, Ray Donovan, right, where, what was it, Liev Schreiber used to just show up on the scene of every crazy situation and just clean it up like Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction. And, again, that's the feel you get from this. And it's not a good look for the 49ers.
No, and for us to have not known, I think we said this yesterday, an NFL head coach is currently away from his total duties as NFL head coach, yet we didn't know about it for 11 days. That's rare. It doesn't have, and, oh, well, there was trauma. Oh, well, the family. Oh, well, we hear about these things within minutes. TMZ's on this within minutes. ESPN had this information. There were outlets that withheld this information intentionally, and that's not how journalism goes. Whether you're friends with that person or not, they're an NFL head coach. When they're in the middle of a car accident, that's something that you should know when your NFL head coach is not the current head coach and somebody else has stepped in to take on those duties. 310-840-4910. We're still talking all things LeBron James and training camp across the NFL across our 3 hours a day. Pete Souza co-hosting, Addie Bates produces, and Laura Jimenez runs the board. When we come back, let's get into whatever the hell is going on in North Carolina. I know Bill Belichick and another string of controversy. Michael Lombardi is on paid leave, his right-hand man. Before we get there, though, LeBron James. Is the rest of the NBA scared of the Philadelphia 76ers, or is this just smoke and Philadelphia mirrors? This is Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. This is the Drake Toll Show.
Go on trial just for laughing at the joke, just for saying of the bargain what any sales girl already knows. Most of us old men die at the firing line, just waiting for our number to be called. I guess time just makes fools of us all. Now the king gets his stepson when he's loaded as a gun. Says a real man is like a country. You need a map to find your one. Now I do you suppose you must approach the throne with its back up against the wall. I guess time just makes fools of us all. Minds of my generation, glad they conscripted in a war of defending any Goliath that would deign darken the door. Now with your genius for picking battles, it's no wonder every helmet is too small. I guess time just makes fools of us all. I guess time just makes fools of us all. My drink is watered down. The champ is on his knees. He lost the rematch. He lost the comeback. He lost for charity, but that's the job. It's what gets the asses in the hall. They came for a beating, and he came to brawl. Notice that of all the young gods I have known, yours is easily the least famous to turn down the cover of a Rolling Stone. Lily white faces, so familiar and yet impossible to recall. I guess time just makes fools of us all. After a millennia of good times, God said, hey now, let's have a dream where we raise the stakes a little. Come on, let's make things interesting. Parachute into the Anthropocene, an amnesiac, a himbo Kendall. I guess time does make fools of us all.
New York Giants. Wow, it's an honor.
Bro, let's not forget who you are, you know? You're the greatest in the world. Like,
it is the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization and Locked On Big 12 alongside Pete Souza, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. You can listen to the entire show on the Drake Toll Show YouTube channel, SiriusXM channel 375, or the Westwood One Sports app. Addie Bates produces, Laura Jimenez runs the board, and LeBron James is a Philadelphia 76er. Last week, Pete Souza joins this show for the final 3 days of the week, and we're like, Pete's a good guy. He's great at what he does. He's a pro's pro. Let's give him a couple days, see what kind of supplement, compliment, what can he do to a morning national radio show? And the first thing he does is he walks in the front door and he says, LeBron James, the Philadelphia 76er. Everybody called him an idiot. People were throwing tomatoes. The text line, 310-840-4910. said, get this guy off the show. And sure enough, it is Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, and LeBron James is a Philadelphia 76er. Pete, we got a text at the very end of the show yesterday. Last couple minutes, I couldn't end up not being able to get to Music Monday, which you were terrible at, by the way. For somebody to talk such a big game
terrible at.
on Music Monday, you got like one song, one artist. This one comes from Danny in Florida. Said, LeBron James, the 76ers is a joke. This kind of super team isn't even a super team. I'm not sure what this kind of super team isn't even a super team really means. We'll have to kind of pick that one apart here. But LeBron James, the Philadelphia 76er, does this scare the rest of the NBA?
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. If you're, and I talked to Billy King yesterday, former Sixers general manager, and one of the things we mentioned was, okay, how many nights a week or nights of the season are those guys all going to play together? Okay? And when they do, you are going to have opposing teams in their locker room, facts, that see that lineup on the whiteboard and they're like, damn, tonight? Like, because that team not only will run you up and down the floor, but they will beat you up. Like, that is a physical team. And it's an athletic team. And when you fuse that youth with Tyrese Maxey, right, and that youth with VJ Edgecombe zooming up and down the floor, and then you get the body blows from LeBron, from Jaylen Brown, from Joel Embiid. Again, when healthy, it's terrifying for the rest of the league. That's an absolute fact. Now, there's a lot they have to work out, but you mentioned, are they scared? NBA guys scared. What's your definition of scared? But they're going to be like, damn.
Yeah, I don't think anybody looked at the New York Knicks going into last year and said, damn. They won the NBA title. And I don't know, no fan, there was no rhetoric around the Knicks being a championship contender. They had fired their head coach in order to bring in Mike Brown and try to compete to win. Mike Brown's down 2-1 in the opening series of the postseason against the Atlanta Hawks, comes to the podium and is like, I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm not saying that we're that good, all right? Come on, guys. And a lot of New York Knicks fans were frustrated, and at that point, it certainly didn't seem like the Knicks would win the NBA title. And they go from, hey, does this Mike Brown, Karl Anthony Towns is the number 2, is Jalen Brunson the guy? Those questions were answered. The question marks with flying colors, the New York Knicks proved they were the best team in the NBA. I don't see how all of a sudden we have pushed aside the New York Knicks in the East. I still don't think you can push aside the Boston Celtics. The Miami Heat just got Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they still have Bam Adebayo. People forget, Pete, because it was on FanDuel Sportsnet TV Plus, that he did score more points in a single game than Kobe did in a single game in his career last season. But if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, that's the same thing for Bam Adebayo scoring, what was it, 83. There are still enough teams in the East, pair it with the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I think, number one, you walk in the locker room and say, damn. And number two, you walk in the locker room, see their lineup, and you've been saying that. You've seen the culture of those rosters and how they can win. And San's kind of a Miami, right? They still have a lot to prove. But namely, if you go to the West, and a couple of these still contenders in the East, there are teams that scare me more than the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think the 76ers, the thesis, are the scariest team in the East, much less the NBA.
No, and I'll tell you something. I have a prediction for the early portion of the season up until at least January, February. I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the most dysfunctional teams. Every single team, if you could talk to Leon Rose, and you gave him truth serum, right?
Yeah.
At some point, he would tell you, yeah, January of last year, the bottom was falling out. Like, it happens to every organization at some point every single year. And when you've got a bunch of new pieces like this Sixers team, it's more than likely to happen towards the front of the season. And it will be the story of the season. I can promise you that, early on at least. And I'm talking among the headlines of the NFL and well, not necessarily, NHL, I love it, but it's not going to be stealing headlines. But sports will be going full bore at that time, college and NFL. And we will be talking about LeBron James and the Sixers and how they're finding their footing together. And some of the stories won't be too pretty. There's going to be some weird moments. Joel Embiid's going to say something absolutely crazy. LeBron may take exception. I mean, there's going to be drama. It's going to be fun to watch. This is like we're literally in the. I just got married. I know the honeymoon phase. Okay, I got married in June, and we're in the middle of a huge move right here in Dallas. Let me tell you, folks, the honeymoon's over. It lasted for a while though, and I got to make sure I don't say anything mouthy like Joel Embiid or LeBron James around the house. But I know what that can do as far as breeding discontent. But I also know I love my wife, and we're headed for a championship together. The point is, you're going to have ups and downs during the season, especially the early part where you experience tumult. And I think that that's something that Sixers fans and the NBA need to buckle up for. And I think that's where you are spot on, Drake. This is so far from a done deal. I mean, so far.
It is Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app, the Drake Toll Show. Pete Souza co-hosting. Laura Jimenez runs the board. Addie Bates produces. Let's take you back to football where Michael Lombardi. Come on, that name you know and you love. If you don't know Michael Lombardi, this is your first time being introduced. He is Bill Belichick's right-hand man, dating back to New England. Multiple Super Bowl titles with Lombardi somewhere in the fold. And Belichick hires him at North Carolina when Bill makes his move to college football to be his general manager. And it comes down the pipeline at 8:35 yesterday morning as we're about to close the show that Lombardi has been placed on administrative leave. And this is another feather in the hat of Bill Belichick embarrassing himself, throwing up all over himself on the back end of his coaching career in football. Pete, we talked.
I hate that term.
I'm sure he does too. It's as grotesque. It's what it looks like. It's the perfect way to paint the picture. We talked about this ad nauseum last week. Tom Brady, thanks to WWE and these shenanigans with Jake Paul, is mucking up how we view Tom Brady. He's making his legacy on the football field look a lot different because of what he's doing off the field. Bill Belichick stayed on the gridiron and all of a sudden has gone from unequivocal, surefire, greatest coach in NFL history. It's the first thing you think of when you think Bill Belichick in 2019 to today in 2026. You think girlfriend Jordan cheer competitions or Michael Lombardi or losing games hand over fist at UNC. Bill Belichick has ruined his football reputation with this, and it's continued to spiral out of control. Yesterday's news, again, another piece of it.
Well, look, with Michael Lombardi, again, it speaks to what you were just sort of hinting at, or not necessarily hinting at, maybe hitting us over the head with. Bill Belichick and his decision-making process has been pretty bad, not only on the football field, but on it. And the Michael Lombardi, mafia, it's time that this whole thing gets shut down. Like La Cosa Nostra, as we know it with Michael Lombardi, needs to go bon voyage. And here's the thing about Lombardi. If he was running a podcast, I'd be listening. Like, Michael Lombardi is the king of football content, books, podcasts, as an interview guest. He was amazing. He did a ton with The Ringer and Bill Simmons. And when he's out of football, that's where you can find him. And he's way better off there than he is running a football team, not only for his own personal good and the good of his friends around football, but also for the fans. Again, he's great at what he does when he is a content guy. But as a football guy, really what he's been is just around greatness. He's never actually produced greatness himself, but he's such like a P.T. Barnum. And when I say that, I mean he's just such an amazing promoter of himself. And literally, in some fashions, like, it's not real. He's embellished his work with the 49ers. That's really where he came up in the NFL, at the foot of Bill Walsh. And he makes it sound like he was way more involved in the 49ers dynasty than he actually was. That's a fact. Pablo Torre has caught him embellishing his resume around circumstances like that. Then he goes to Al Davis, and he's with Al, and he's in the room, but it's like, what does this guy actually do, right? He was I think he was a director of pro scouting, then he ends up going to the Browns, where he connects with Bill Belichick. They're not terrific. He finally gets his first job as a GM in 2013, 2014, and the Browns suck on fire. And he's fired in about 2 years. But somehow he has created this legacy and this idea that he is the smartest football guy in the room, when really he's just been around smart football guys. And the jig seems to be up. Now, you got to remember, too, this is about an HR investigation. But it's also an opportunity for us to shine a light on what the heck is going on with this guy and with Bill Belichick and North Carolina.
Yeah, Addie Bates producing the Drake Toll Show, back from England. Good morning. It seems like in this saga, Bill Belichick post NFL, the fall apart has marred what he did as the head coach of the New England Patriots. Because now I don't think of Bill Belichick, the greatest head coach of all time, National Football League wise. I think of Bill Belichick, the sideshow carny.
I'm going to go back to something that happened a couple weeks ago in music. Billy Joel said the reason why he doesn't put out new music is because he doesn't want to tarnish his legacy of what he built. And I think Bill Belichick should kind of just, write that down and, hey, let's retire. Let's go hang out with our 24-year-old girlfriend, because the transition from pro to college ball has not been great. We've seen this before with other coaches when they try to transition back and forth. And it's sometimes you just don't have it. So I think he should just ride off into the sunset with Jordan, go to all the cheer competitions, and just maybe step away from football for a second.
If you've ever been to any of those cheer competitions, that's the reason why he'll coach till he drops dead.
This is the young girlfriend thing is also not exclusive to Bill Belichick. Billy Joel also married to someone who is quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, there's something about the money that makes you think, how young is the Leonardo DiCaprio effect here that these guys are going for. It's a good comparison to Billy Joel. Bill Belichick is tarnished.
And not fair to Leo DiCaprio. But anyways.
No, don't turn 25, please. No.
Once you're 25, that's the cutoff date. It is the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, and the Westwood One Sports app. Bill Belichick unequivocally has tarnished his reputation. Again, go back to 2019, what Bill Belichick meant to the NFL, what he meant to football, and that is different today. That conversation is different today by his actions on and off the field.
And one thing I want to add, and I think we touched on this. No, we actually didn't talk about it yesterday. Their first game against TCU is in Ireland. There is no worse way to start off a college football
They're
season.
going to get killed.
Well, not only that, Drake, they will get their asses kicked. But then you come home, you're jet lagged. You may never find your rhythm again. Like, that's what these games are doing to these young kids. I'm not saying we should eliminate it for the greater good of college football or for the mental health or physical health of these football teams. But if your team takes one of these trips, you should brace for impact. And I'm talking about impact coming week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And North Carolina is not in a position to take one of those trips and lose any kind of footing. Not a good look starting the season over in Ireland.
No, we saw this with Florida State when they played Georgia Tech. We saw this with both Iowa State and Kansas State last year, that you go overseas, you lose a game, you come back, you can't regroup. You can't find a way to regroup. And North Carolina is staring down the barrel of that against a salty TCU team out of the Big 12. He is Pete Souza, NBC Sports and ESPN play-by-play, and Bill Belichick has tarnished the whole thing. When we come back, our biggest losers of the day, sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union, proudly serving all branches of the armed services, veterans, and their families. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Our members are the mission. Our biggest losers, Shohei Ohtani, the gambler. This is the Drake Toll Show. It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization. Locked on Big 12. There's Pete Souza, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. Would you let Bill Belichick date your daughter? 310-840-4910. 310-840-4910. What? The call line, the text line are open today. Bill Belichick has now seen his GM at North Carolina put on paid administrative leave. Michael Lombardi, the old running buddy with Bill, is just another piece of the Belichick controversy post New England Patriots. That's a perfect segue into our biggest losers of the day. Oh, there it is. Biggest loser of the day, number one. Is it Shohei Ohtani's translator? Ipe Mizuhara has been a part of many controversies as tied to Shohei Ohtani's non-gambling habits. Here is, per ESPN and their 30 for 30 podcast series, Ipe audio pretending to be Shohei Ohtani to Bank of America.
This is a Bank of America recording from February 2022.
Who am I speaking with?
Shohei Ohtani.
Thank you. How may I help you?
So I tried to log into online banking, and it tells me that it's not available to me at this time.
Uh-huh. So, Pete, it sounds like Ipe, I'm not. It's going to be really hard. It's Ipe, this has happened before where professional athletes or others have tried to impersonate each other, but Ipe walking to the bank and be like, hello, I am Shohei Ohtani. And Bank of America possibly buying this is another feather in the hat of Shohei Ohtani possibly being innocent. We talked about this yesterday. Which side of the aisle are you on?
I am on Shohei Ohtani being innocent, but
all right,
but he's got to. Okay, let me say that again. I think he's got to be guilty of something. He's got to be guilty of something. Otherwise, ESPN wouldn't be doing this story. That woman, Tisha Thompson, is unbelievable, whose voice we heard there, the journalist that is the power behind this 30 for 30 podcast that I can't wait to listen to. But this isn't a fool's errand by ESPN. There's got to be something there. But I would also believe if there was a real there, we already would have heard about it. You know, we already would. It already would have been. You could listen towards this whole podcast and have and today, right, and know what the end of it is. And if it was some crazy gotcha moment, I think it'd be a bigger story right now.
Yep. Let's go. Biggest loser of the day, Monica McNutt. Now, Monica McNutt, employed by ESPN, has been in the middle of pushback over the last 48 hours for comments about Caitlin Clark. And this is the first time McNutt's rhetoric at ESPN has been put under a spotlight, and a negative spotlight. But this time, her thoughts on Caitlin Clark, to me, are only adding to the Caitlin Clark issues. Here is ESPN's McNutt.
Caitlin Clark is 24. She is a shining star in the galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way, in the WNBA. But Malika, I agree with her 100%. It is certainly exhausting for all of us who really want to celebrate where this league is and the beautiful basketball that is being played. This larger discourse that can be very disappointing.
So this rhetoric has taken the world by storm. The Twitter bots have jumped all over this on how Caitlin Clark has called media coverage emotionally exhausting, and now it's turned to the greater sisterhood being a piece and how Caitlin Clark handles herself. Do we know clearly what it is Caitlin Clark's doing? Is there something behind closed doors where she's hurting the WNBA?
No, it's that stupid. No, there's nothing more. There's a belief, obviously, and you and I talked about it last week, and that was a much more combustible situation. And we're talking about the article in the USA Today where Caitlin Clark's presence was compared to a lynching. I think what we can say right here and now is that Monica McNutt is like a voice for the voiceless. That's how she sees it, right? Like some of the contempt among WNBA players. And for her to say, like, if she sees it as a sisterhood, like if she even cares about the women she's playing with, because when she acts when she brings those theatrics every time she doesn't get a call she wants and she yells at a referee, basically she's putting the woman who commits that foul at risk because she'll be receiving death threats on social media. I mean, that's basically what that is, which is insanity to hold Caitlin Clark to that standard. And it's insane. And I think Monica McNutt does an amazing job. She's one of my favorite analysts on ESPN. I actually got into a Twitter war with somebody last year when she mistook the Barry Sanders jersey when Drewski had it on First Take, and she thought it was a Shador Sanders jersey, which was an awful moment for her. But I thought like the backlash was way, way too steep. So I like Monica McNutt, but I hate this. This is a boneheaded comment by her. And if nothing else, it feels like she's pressing. When you watch the clip, it's like, this is your agenda. Like, and it's not even, it doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about right now. You're pressing this issue.
Sabrina Ionescu, right? Never, I don't remember this being part of the whole deal when she walks into the WNBA. She was a star at Oregon, goes to the WNBA, has been a star there. Maria Sharapova, Serena Williams, Billie Jean King. I mean, that's not to make a comparison, right? Because there was don't compare it to the NBA, don't compare it to the NFL, don't compare it to men's sports. If you take women's sports, I'm not looking at a long list of examples of women who had to walk into their sport and be a part of, quote, the sisterhood. But instead, they all got kind of these open, welcoming arms. Caitlin Clark shatters records, breaks viewership records. People are buying her merchandise, watching the WNBA at an all-time rate. And you can pinpoint Caitlin Clark as a massive reason why. And the, quote, sisterhood is the thing pushing her out, pushing her away. You got the golden ticket. We gave you the thing. We gave this is the here's what Caitlin Clark actually had to say about her media coverage. Now it continues to put her down. Here's Caitlin Clark.
A lot of times, like, you guys are the ones controlling the narratives about what people read and what people talk about, and a lot of that is sometimes so far out of touch with what is reality, and that can be confusing to somebody that's 24 and trying to navigate life and trying to help her team win a championship.
I mean,
and just real quick too, the way that whole McNutt comment flowed, it was out of that interview with Malika Andrews and Caitlin Clark, which we just heard. They come back in studio following the interview, almost as we would say, like to tag out in the TV business, right? So, and tagging out means we're just going to wrap up this segment and talk about it. So then here we have Malika Andrews standing next to McNutt, and McNutt makes the comment to Malika Andrews almost as to say too, like, you didn't ask like the hard questions. That's the vibe I got from watching it. Like it was sort of like she poo-pooed her interview. And I think like behind the scenes, this has been brought to Caitlin Clark. Like, hey, this is happening. Your attitude and the way that you're reacting is putting some of these players in the spotlight, ultimately at risk. And I think Caitlin Clark has been like, no way, dude. This is how I play basketball. Like, I'm not going to that insane version of this with you. I'm going to keep it right here. And I think that has ruffled some feathers, as far as what I've heard.
Yeah, to me, Clark, from a media standpoint, has handled this really well. She's sat down and said, I didn't ask for this. I'm just good at basketball. You know, like maybe I trash talk a little bit, you know, and maybe she's flopping, and maybe, but to ask for the racial comparisons that the media is making. I'm not even saying the WNBA players, but the media, what they're doing, bringing in lynchings to compare to Caitlin Clark fouling people, that's a huge problem. What's not a problem is Jason Benetti. Man, I love Jason Benetti, our biggest winner of the day today. There was an infestation. A squirrel is on the field, and Jason Benetti is on the call for the Orioles-Tigers game in Detroit.
The chase for the squirrel is on, and the squirrel is in the corner, and the squirrel is still eluding an entire horde of grounds crew members. And the squirrel's free once again. Hemmed in? No, I won't be hemmed in. I have freedom on my mind. Trying to go between the legs, and eventually he gets away again and hops through the towel and hops through another towel.
I've been around Benetti a couple times now in my career, and there may not be a nicer, more down-the-middle, just awesome human being out there.
I did talent stats for him a bunch of times. Like when you stand next to the play-by-play guy, you give him the information. He was tolerant of my mistakes, which is always means he's an awesome guy. By the way, that recap right there, we got to pay homage to Westwood One's own Kevin Harlan. He really took the lid off that. In 2016, it was the Rams and the 49ers, and that was the he's drunk. That was and he literally did a play-by-play. And what it was
you're going to do it again, Pete. You're going to do it again, Pete? He's Pete
He's
Souza.
drunk.
Laura Jimenez runs the board. Addie Bates produces. When we come back, we'll give you our obituaries on the Drake Toll Show.
This is Westwood.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Doodah Man, together, more or less in line, just keep trucking on. Arrows of neon and flashing marquees out on Main Street, Chicago, New York, Detroit, and it's all on the same street. A typical city involved in a typical daydream. Hang it up and see what tomorrow brings. Dallas got a soft machine. Houston, too close to New Orleans. New York got the ways and means and just won't let you be. Most of the cats that you meet on the street speak of true love. Most of the time they're sitting and crying at home. One of these days they know they gotta get going. Out of the door and down to the street all alone. Chugging like the Doodah Man once told me you got to pay your hand. Sometimes the cards ain't worth a dime if you don't lay them down. Sometimes the light's all shining on me. Other times I can barely see. Lately it occurs to me. What a long, strange trip it's been. What in the world ever became of Sweet Jane? She lost her sparkle, you know she isn't the same. Living on Reds, vitamin C, and cocaine. All a friend can say is ain't it a shame? Looking up the buffalo, been thinking you got to mellow slow. It takes time to pick a place to go and just keep trucking on. Sitting and staring out of the hotel window. Got a tip, they're gonna kick the door in again. I'd like to get some sleep before I travel, but if you got a warrant, I guess you're gonna come in. Busted down on Bourbon Street, set up like a bowling pin. Knocked down, it gets to wearing thin. It just won't let you be. You're sick of hanging around and you like to travel. Get tired of traveling, you wanna settle down. I guess I can't revoke your soul for trying. Get out of the door, light out and look all around. Sometimes the light's all shining on me. Other times I can barely see. Lately it occurs to me. What a long, strange trip it's been. Trucking, I'm going home. Whoa, whoa, baby, back where I belong. Back home, sit down and patch my bones and get back trucking. Oh,
It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization. Locked on Big 12. There's Pete Souza, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. 310-840-4910. 310-840-4910. This is good. This is good. Sam in Sacramento texts, again, 310-840-4910. How is Michael Lombardi not one of the biggest losers of the day? Pete, he's the GM of was the GM of the North Carolina Tar Heels alongside Bill Belichick and might be deposed now as he's on administrative leave. Wasn't it just a given that Michael Lombardi's the biggest loser of the day? Was it not just implied?
No, he actually told us that he wasn't the loser of the day. Another lie, and we believed him, so we took him off the list.
We bought it, and we bought it. 310-840-4910. We'll make you famous. We'll bring you right back on here. We got another one here. Says, Ralph, North Carolina. Facts are, Caitlin Clark brought racist fans to the WNBA, period. If you two don't know that, you are clueless. Pete, can I say this? And I'm excited to get your thoughts on this. I do know that. I do know that Caitlin Clark brought racist fans to the WNBA and a new sect of fans to the WNBA. Caitlin Clark did not intentionally, knowingly attempt, try, coerce, do anything in her power to bring racism or race conversations, negative race conversations, to the WNBA. Just because Caitlin Clark is white and good at something, I don't want to dilute the fact that there are terrible people in this world that send death threats and racist remarks to both sides that have no place in sports and no place in society. But for Caitlin Clark to be blamed for that when she did not, and this is the key word here, when she did not incite that, she didn't ask for this. She was just damn good at basketball.
100%, Drake. And I think that she's operating from a space of integrity when she doesn't give this stuff any gasoline or she doesn't want to give it any oxygen, because the truth is this has nothing to do with, honestly, racism. These are fringe people in society. And here's a great example. If you look at the Indiana Fever, if you go to a game, if you watch a game, there aren't a bunch of racist people yelling at players on the floor. If you walk outside of a game, there's not racist people yelling at everybody that left the arena. These are legit keyboard warriors who don't go out, who some of them are, maybe the overwhelming majority of them aren't even real. They're bots or whatever, but this is not real life. And I think Caitlin Clark is 10 toes down on who she is as a person and not letting this craziness affect her. And she said that last week. She's 24. Some of the stories being reported are out of this world crazy, and it's been hard for her to navigate them. But she's not going to change who she is.
One of the pieces alongside that, Pete, for Caitlin Clark is a note she just gave us when talking to the media. She said, the media is doing this. There are members of the media who are putting me in the conversations, and she didn't say this directly, but alluded to, there are members of the media putting me in conversations with the lynching of a black boy in Mississippi named Emmett Till in the mid-1950s. Caitlin Clark didn't do that. She didn't liken herself, compare herself to those involved in the Emmett Till case. The prominent media, whether it's ESPN, USA Today, whoever it may be, it could be any of these outlets or any rogue piece of these outlets that are using dangerous rhetoric on behalf of Caitlin Clark that push us in that direction. I don't think Clark's the one feeding into it.
I don't think she is either, and I think that she's being... I'll be interested to see if they can move her off this. And what I mean by that is I'll be interested to see if at some point the sentiment doesn't get to her where she feels like she has to do something that is in lockstep with some of the black women in the WNBA to really show support and to shut some of this down. Because I think that's what – I mean, let's give a voice to the other folks, some of the Monica McNutts who say that she's not – giving way to the sisterhood, right? And Monica McNutt, an ESPN analyst, we heard from her earlier, where she talks about, hey, Caitlin Clark really doesn't seem to want to be part of the sisterhood and be accountable for when she acts out. It affects other players because now they're threatened by some of Caitlin Clark's fans. I think that you could see her try to shut that down publicly alongside some of these women who are being hit with these death threats. And I think that's what they're calling for. I think they feel like she's not doing enough for them. And I think she feels like this is such an outer space operation and so crazy that it doesn't deserve that. And I got to say, I'm with Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, as always, appreciate the text no matter what, and it brings in new pieces of the conversation and new ways to approach the conversation. 310-840-4910. It is time for today's obituaries. Who died today? Well, first, the pronunciation of Barack Obama's name. He's done it again. He has done it again. He takes the podium yesterday. The current president of the United States, Donald Trump, had this to say about the former president of the U.S.
Obama would say, remember Barack Hussein Obama. Obama.
Hussein Obama.
It's Obama.
How do you say it?
It just gets, it's more and more every day.
Obama would say, remember Barack Hussein Obama. Obama.
Every day.
Thank you, President Trump.
His Mexico one yesterday, we'll get to at some point today. That was his Mijo was the masterclass in whatever this guy's been up to. Dead today are obituaries. The New England Patriots. What a cesspool. What a hotbed. What a disaster of winning, man. 25 years, the city of Boston has just won at the highest level. It's the number one sports city in America because they win. I think Philadelphia's the most passionate sports city. New York's the number one market for sure. LA's right there rivaling it as kind of the best place to be a star. You could argue LA's a better place to be a star despite being New York being the number one market. But man, New England build the Patriots on the backs of guys like Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Mike Vrabel, Michael Lombardi. John O'Connell tweets. Yeah, he says, I'm beginning to think the Patriots may not have been the best group of guys. Pete, Sex sells, and the Pats win.
Dude, you skipped over Aaron Hernandez. I mean, there is
the glaring
so much
one.
there.
I missed the big one. Oh, what's lost in all of this is Rob Gronkowski eating crayons in the corner. What's lost on all of it is just notable good guy Rob Gronkowski, who's exonerated of all of the terrible wrongdoings of the Patriots. I mean, that's a crazy list of names that each carry their own baggage, but they won a lot.
And I think if you were to look at any, honestly, like hugely successful corporate conglomerate outside of murder, okay, the Hernandez stuff withstanding, I think all that other stuff is in line with corporate America and every other, you put together a group of people for 10 years or more that are going to work together and achieve great success, money, egos, the whole deal. You're going to have some out-of-pocket behavior, and the Patriots have been serious out-of-pocket at times.
The quote that I got from Gary Patterson, TCU legend, Hall of Famer, currently the defensive coordinator at USC, he said when he was coaching at TCU, he needed 4 choir boys and 1 cat who might be a little, quote, rough around the edges. He said if I had the makeup, 20% of my team were guys I had to watch a little bit closely, but I could trust the other 4 guys in that ratio to do so, I was in business. Like, hey, man, this kid's a 4-star, but he had some academic or behavioral issues in high school. How do you, man? It's like that one. Laura, do you have the groaning guest drop somewhere in there, please? Yes, Pete, that was a guest on this show who said that, and I quote. But Patterson said those other 4 guys can keep the one dude in check. That's the perfect ratio. New England seemed to have mastered the perfect ratio. We just hear a lot more about the 20% in these dealings. Our final obituary today, the New York Yankees. Addy Bates, notable seam head. The New York Yankees are once again in Spain without the S. That would be pain. It's a grade 2 strain for Cody Bellinger. 4 to 6 weeks per Aaron Boone. Smell you later, the New York Yankees and the entirety of the AL.
Ooh, so they're without Cody Bellinger. They're without Aaron Judge. What does that mean? They are kind of done for. The Rays are healthy. The Yankees are not. And they're without their captain. without this powerful bat, a key part of this team. R.I.P. Yankees, because Aaron Judge isn't coming back at least until September.
And here come the Red Sox. Here come the Bucs. They're still winning, despite them losing the one game that I went to. They're still winning by and large, 8-2 in their last 10. The Red Sox at 55-50, 7 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays for the American League East lead, and 4.5 games back of the Yankees for second place in the AL East. Those are our obituaries. Time for the Quickie. Top 5 headlines in all of sports. Addie Bates reads them. Drake Toll and Pete Souza respond.
All right, let's start with NFL. 3-time Pro Bowler Jamal Adams to join Minnesota Vikings.
Bang! It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. And now, 3-time Pro Bowler Jamal Adams, member of the new man on the Minnesota Vikings. This is an effort to win. I'm confused. I'm confused by the Raiders and their approach, because Fernando Mendoza to keeping Max Crosby in the end, it seemed like the right pieces were there for them to compete. They drafted well, and they went out and hired a coach who's predicated on winning. I feel like the Raiders were in a spot to compete, to win, and then a move like this is where you want to go? Losing Jamal Adams to the Minnesota Vikings he's only 30 years old, too, by the way. I mean, the guy's got some gas in the tank, cash in the bank. And the Vikings, on the other hand, seem to be trying to reload themselves in an effort to win. Okay. If you're a Vikings fan, I think you're happy. If you're Clint Kubiak and the Raiders, Kubiak being the new head coach, I'm a bit confused. I'm a Raiders fan today. Goodbye, 3-time Pro Bowler Jamal Adams.
All right, here's your next headline. Patriots Brown knows Vrabel rip comes from a great place.
This is a great one. Basically Mike Vrabel is all over Antonio Brown for not reeling in a pass, down the side. He didn't make a tremendous catch, and I guess he's done that before, when they were in Tennessee together. This is your headline that is reflective of the NFL and that we are in training camp. It is like a nothing story. I saw the headline. I got rope-a-doped. I mean, it was clickbait. I literally saw the headline, and I was like, what is this story about? It's about Drake May wanted to go deep down the sideline to Brown to start off camp with a bang. Brown didn't catch it. Vrabel gave him a hard time, and now we're over here, breaking this down.
I love that you said headline. Antonio Brown, by the way, instead of A.J. Brown. Very easy. Super easy to get those two. Somewhere we got our wires crossed here.
It's bad. It's not that bad.
Antonio Brown at Patriots training camp. Well, I'll keep my finger on that pulse.
That wouldn't even be shocking. That actually seems on brand that he would just randomly show up. So I believed it. I believed it. Here's your next headline. I almost said Oakland. Athletics prospect Ryan Lasko says feeling in his legs returning after collision with his teammate.
Yeah, we were in Midland, Texas with Banana Ball 3 days after this happened, and when he plays for the Midland Rockhounds, when he collapsed, everything pointed, and then even talking to local staff in Midland, they were genuinely worried that after an outfield collision in the Texas League, AA, that Lasko, this prospect, had paralyzed himself from at least the waist down, possibly worse. At the collision, just going for a fly ball, freak accident, nobody's at complete fault here. There was very little you can do to avoid it. And so that was the 4th of July weekend, by the way. So it's been 4 weeks to get a really tangible, big, positive update here. But the fact that he's not paralyzed, feeling in his legs, can get back to walking, it's going to be an even cooler story, and this is me manifesting this 3 years from now when the guy makes his big league debut. And you go back, you watch the video, and it's far less scary knowing that he's back in the sport of baseball and not just has feeling in his legs, is not paralyzed, is walking, but playing at a high level and playing professional baseball. My hope is that the right support system, which, I'm trusting the Athletics to have the right support system here, but hopefully the right support system brings him back in the game of baseball at a high level, and we're talking about this story in 3 years in the ultimate positive light. Good for Lasko.
Here's your next headline. I sent a text about this yesterday. Commanders fire tight ends coach Ben Steele following DWI charge.
There's got to be more there, because and Addie said in our text, is this not America anymore? And I was kind of like, yeah. And look, here is Here is sorry to out you on that. Yeah, it was definitely tongue in cheek.
Addie's a big Mike Gundy fan. She loves Mike Gundy.
And look, we talked about this yesterday, Addie, when you were in England before you came back from vacation. It's Tony Romo gets the DUI in Milwaukee, and it was like a legit slap on the wrist. It's like, give us $300, and that's it. You're off the hook. This is much different. I would not be surprised if there was a prior stipulation. Maybe there was history to this, and there's probably a lot more around it. We do not know, because I do find this a little shocking.
Here's your final headline. The Marlins snapped a 12-game losing streak, and they won a game after their manager likens the skid to Odyssey.
Yep. Walk in the locker room, tell the boys, hey, this is just like Matt Damon in the Odyssey. Things happen. Sometimes the Cyclops eats all your friends. Right now the Cyclops is devouring all of our friends. Let's just go out there and win. Not only did they win, they won 8-7 in a thriller against the Philadelphia Phillies. They finally won a game. Now, this is the same Marlins team that 3 weeks ago, even going into the All-Star break, we were talking about as one of the best squads in the MLB, one of the hottest squads in Major League Baseball at least. And it started to look like the Marlins could not only be competitive in the National League, but could actually make the postseason. And I say that strategically. I remember the Texas Rangers, the year before they won the World Series in 2023, that 2022 team hovered around 500. They were a competitive team. They were fun to watch. It felt good again to watch baseball that was competent, but they weren't a playoff contender. The Marlins looked like genuine playoff contenders, and they were 7 games above 500. They've since dropped now a game below 500, 9.5 games back of the Atlanta Braves, who figured it out at least a bit more post-All-Star break. Miami was a fun story. I think that story is fizzled out by and large, hence the 12-game losing streak. But at least war is over in the city of Miami for their baseball team.
Those are your headlines for the day.
Sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. 310-840-4910. 310-840-4910. You can call or text the show. We got one LeBron James text already in the queue. You can add yours. We'll make you famous when we come back. If the team is healthy, boy, that's a big if with Joel Embiid on the roster. Are the 76ers wielding the best starting lineup in the entire NBA? The best starting lineup of the last 5 years? The best starting lineup of the last decade? Is that how good the 76ers are? I'm Drake Toll. There's Pete Souza. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. This is the Drake Toll Show.
Hey lady, you got the love I need. Maybe more than enough. Oh, darling, 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 walk a while with me. Oh, you got so much, so much, so much.
Tom Petty brings you back on the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. There's Pete Souza co-hosting this week. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. Drake Toll with you. You can call or text the show. Look, Pete, does it ever strike you? Because it strikes me sometimes. I wake up and I remember. I mean, there are 300-plus Westwood One affiliates, and people driving their cars right now. You woke up today in Springfield, Missouri to go to work, and you turn on the radio, and you're listening to the Drake Toll Show. And it's like, I know, you're probably 37 minutes away from Dick and Doug, your favorite morning show coming on. You love those guys. This is kind of your appetizer into your favorite morning local show. We get to tee you up for it a little bit there. And I find it pretty damn cool that in cars across America, folks are driving, listening to the Drake Toll Show, getting ready for their morning, getting ready, going to work, and that they can be involved in the show. 310-840-4910.
And I want to make sorry. I stepped on the phone
hit
number.
me. Come on, hit me.
One more time with the phone
number.
number.
Shots from the front and the back. 310-840-4910. What you got, Pete?
No, I apologize. I am not going to the bathroom right now. That's my Keurig performing to the left. So I don't want the people in the car to be like, I got these two schmucks, and I got the one guy going to the bathroom. No, it's the Keurig going to work right now. Just so
the guys tinkling. Yeah, I got my little tea machine. What do you call it? A kettle? I think that's what they call that. But now they've got a new name for that. It's a kettle. Wow, you really are.
I actually don't like that.
This is reminiscent. I had to do a show one time from a hotel room in Sacramento, and the only place with ample outlets was the bathroom. So I was just on arm's reach away from just the flush sound effect. That was back in the Curtis Poindexter days. The streets remember him. I think he played that sound effect 7 times over the course of the show. Not lost on me in cars and radios across America right now. And you can, it was Laura.
That was
and
me. You got mad at me. You were like, don't do that.
Addie did.
I
thought it was awesome.
Someone was getting mad at me for playing the toilet flush.
Sorry,
Your calls and texts can be heard across the country. 310-840-4910 is the case here. We didn't get a name left with this one, but it is the Springfield, Missouri area code 417. I did my research. It says LeBron James to the Philadelphia 76ers creates a super team like we have not seen since. Oh, Pete, you're going to like this example. You ready for this? Yeah. Like we have not seen since the Brooklyn Nets had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, LaMarcus Aldridge, and what a flop. What a flop. The Brooklyn Nets have had a couple of super team flops so far in the NBA, and in this modern era, by the way. Is LeBron James just rinsing and repeating what other stars have tried to do? I go back to the Lakers. I've mentioned them. Pau Gasol, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, Meta World Peace. That was a starting 5. The Suns, KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Even Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton. Those guys didn't win at the rate we thought they would. Is LeBron James doing the same thing with the 76ers, a stacked starting 5 that doesn't meet the expectation?
No way. I mean, at the risk of, having a slow start, and again, they're going to have to work out some stuff and get on the same page chemistry-wise, LeBron James is his own orbit wherever he goes. And LeBron James is looking to make NBA history with a 4th title on a 4th different team, which has never been done before. He literally is the trailblazer. Like, he sets the tone. Those guys follow. Those guys make those moves out of desperation because they need the super teams. LeBron is the super team. Wherever LeBron goes, eventually the super team assembles, and it's around him. I think outside of what he learned early in his career with Mike Brown in Cleveland when he was able to drag Anderson Varejão and Daniel Gibson to the NBA Finals only to get swept by San Antonio, I think he understood from that point going forward that he was going to need help, right? He was going to need a second guy. We talked yesterday. Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen. You could say this team obviously has a little bit more support, right, than some of those Jordan teams, at least on paper. But LeBron sets his own standard. He doesn't march to the beat of anybody else's drum.
And this isn't supposed to be total pushback here. You're an NBA guy. But I look at some of these LeBron teams, and I think that where you're going with this, I look at where he was in Cleveland, and I don't liken that to, the first time around for sure, and even his second run with the Cavs as a super team. I don't look at the Lakers when he first went to L.A. as a super team. When I think super team, again, I want to go through this is a list of names on the same NBA team. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Blake Griffin, and LaMarcus Aldridge. That is a super team. LeBron James has never played for a team that had that deep a list of names, that had that kind of starting five or that kind of 7, 8 guys deep into the rotation. LeBron's never done that. This might be the first example, in my opinion, of a true, genuine, bona fide, hey, you've got 4 guys you could possibly classify as an NBA star on the same roster and LeBron James in the middle of it. This is maybe the first verified super team LeBron's been a part of. Am I off there?
Well, you're off, and I hate to say this because it's about health. But look, as a card-carrying Sixers fan and a guy who worked for the organization, like, you just can't count on Joel Embiid. Like, I am so out, especially in today's NBA, on guys who do not take the floor and do not play the games, regardless of how tremendous they are, regardless of what they've shown us, regardless of what their upside is. If you're only playing 40 games a year, and then you're always in question in the playoffs, I can't count on you. It's almost as though you don't count. And LeBron is the exact opposite of that because the dude has brought it 72 games a year on average for his entire NBA career. That's unbelievable. Tyrese Maxey is another guy who's going to show up every night. Jaylen Brown as well. So I think you have the trifecta. I really, as somebody who's handicapping this, analyzing it, and I'm going with experience and trends. When I think about the Philadelphia 76ers having success into the playoffs, I think more about LeBron James guarding 1 through 5 than I do Joel Embiid guarding the 5 or the 4 of the opposing team. I think about LeBron James checking Karl Anthony Towns as opposed to Joel Embiid because I just don't think he's going to be there. I don't.
It is the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. Pete Souza co-hosting. Can I give you a list of names?
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, just permission first.
You're going to read the Kardashians?
I just told you, yeah, I did. Lamar Odom. We'll start there, and we'll kind of build out the tree in NBA terms. A list of names that LeBron James played around in 2012, because somebody might push back and say, "Oh, he's been a part of super teams, and now he builds." And 2012, it's LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. We remember those teams with that is a bona fide, certified big three. Chris Bosh was a hoss in his prime in the NBA. Now, his prime didn't last near as long as LeBron or Dwayne Wade, but Bosh at that time was devastating. Past that, Mario Chalmers, Shane Battier, Mike Miller, Udonis Haslem, Norris Cole, they deserve flowers for who they were in the NBA. They weren't stars. They weren't a championship breed without LeBron James. If you don't have LeBron on those Miami teams, they don't win the title with James Jones and Dexter Pittman on that squad. I think Birdman was somewhere in those teams.
Yes, he was.
In Miami for a couple of years. That doesn't win you a title without LeBron. That isn't a bona fide super team. When I think Jaylen Brown, NBA Finals MVP, LeBron James, NBA Finals MVP, Joel Embiid, we've seen what he can be. We've seen what the ceiling of Joel Embiid can be when he, and I do think there's a certain want to, right? Now Joel Embiid has a total incentive to play as many games as possible because he gets the back end of LeBron James' career the last year, the last 2 years to compete and possibly win a title. Tyrese Maxey, if you've been under a rock the last 3 years, you might have missed that name. Tyrese Maxey is 3 years away from being a star. 3 years away from being a household everyday name if he's not already, as he is in the NBA community. VJ Edgecombe, if you've been under a rock the last year, he was a stud as a rookie, dropped 40 points in the postseason. Those 5 names being in Philadelphia, if the question is posed, is this one of the best starting 5s of the last 5 years in the NBA? The answer might be yes, but I go back to your addendum, and it's such – I struggle with the addendum, but it's true. It's when healthy. That's the italics. It's the underline. It's the bold. But let's go hypothetical to the max and say Joel Embiid plays 64 games, right? That LeBron James plays 73 games. That Jaylen Brown plays 78 games. That Tyrese Maxey plays 70. Let's go best case scenario here. This 76ers team, it goes from if healthy to if click. If LeBron James can work alongside Joel Embiid, if VJ Edgecombe is a compliment to Jaylen Brown, those are the bigger questions that I have because the injury thing you can do with anybody, any team. Will Miami work? I don't know injuries. Will Oklahoma City work? I don't know injuries.
Hold on. I disagree with you there because I'm going off like what I know and what I've
Yeah.
seen. Like this is a black and white example. Joel Embiid has not played basketball for much of the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, hey, this is going to be a mysterious, like, we don't know, somebody with no injury history could go down, like Bam Adebayo, and he's had injuries, but
Sure.
Joel Embiid is a walking injury waiting to happen. And so that's why I'm tempered in my expectations somewhat about his production.
Can I give you this then? Can they do it without Joel Embiid? Can they do it without?
Yes.
Because I just read you the Heat roster, and there's no Joel Embiid sitting around on that Miami Heat team in 2012. They go 3 guys deep. After that, there's not championship pedigree. Can the Sixers do it without Joel Embiid?
This is going to sound insane, and I'm going to jump in the time machine here, and you got to buckle up and bear with me. But I see Joel Embiid almost being more as a Bill Walton on the Celtics title teams. When Bill Walton was trying to salvage his career.
A
in
Joe
Boston
Klein on the Bulls title teams. Is that what you're going for here?
Yeah. But I believe that. I think that Joel will be a factor. I think he will be a contributor. But I think really, outside of a perfect world, which is what you're saying, and I think that perfect world, you might as well buy a lottery ticket if you think Joel Embiid's going to play 65 games. I think that the best case scenario for the Sixers is Joel Embiid being a contributor in the playoffs, giving them 15, 20 minutes a night, and helping them win a championship, but not somebody who they are relying on night in and night out. I just don't see it happening. He has to earn my trust.
I mentioned this, and I should have been more pointed with it, by the way. The LeBron and Joel Embiid playing together, a healthy Joel Embiid or an unhealthy Joel Embiid, whether or not LeBron James can get it done. In this experiment, I'm going to call this an experiment, the same way it was the Lakers. They put together that starting 5, the Nets, and they put together that starting 5. Are we not looking close enough at Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe? Because I hear a lot about Jaylen Brown. I hear a lot about Joel Embiid, a lot about LeBron James. I'm not hearing much about Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Those 2 guys, again, if you're not an everyday NBA fan, you might not be tuned in to the athleticism and the acumen of both of those players and what they showcased even last year alone. Those 2 keys in the cog, if they're healthy, and they by and large have been, that's where the 76ers win a title.
This goes back to my conversation that I had yesterday with my buddy Billy King, former Sixers GM, and we were talking about how this will impact LeBron, or how this will impact the Sixers, LeBron being there. And the number one, this comes down to, Drake, and this is like the basketball all-timer. It's the secret. It's who's going to sacrifice, who's going to have to sacrifice the most. You mentioned 2 names. I think the number 1 name is VJ Edgecombe. He will have to sacrifice. That he's the number 1 guy that's going to have to take a role that is somewhat relegated. He's going to have to shoot a lot of corner threes. He's going to have to be that 3-and-D guy that helps him win a title. He's going to see some of his minutes eaten into by Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who we haven't even talked about. LeBron's buddy, who's also represented by Clutch Sports. So that's another guy that's a piece of that puzzle that will take minutes from everybody else. Then you have Jaylen Brown. That is the biggest mystery. How will he adapt to LeBron James? His usage rate was 36.2 last year with the Celtics. He was the guy. He will not be the guy this year. Even if he is the guy, he's not going to be the guy. Who can sacrifice? It always goes back for me to that Pistons title when Adrian Dantley was so good, and the Pistons title teams, the bad boys, and they had to trade him to Dallas for Mark Aguirre because Dantley just couldn't get with the program. He couldn't sacrifice. And to your point, if these guys can't sacrifice, specifically Maxey and Edgecombe, there could be problems.
Yeah. When we come back, let's take you to the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers. Are we all the biggest idiot of the day here for not knowing about the head coach of the 49ers being effectively out of commission the last couple of weeks and an effective interim being in the middle of it? This is a confusing situation. Where do the title contenders go, that being San Francisco? And football, by and large, is back. On August 1st and 2nd, NFL teams across the league take the field for Back Together Weekend presented by YouTube TV. With 2 full days of practices, player interviews, and behind-the-scenes access, it's a can't-miss NFL reunion. Back Together Weekend presented by YouTube TV. August 1st and 2nd, go to NFL.com/backtogetherweekend for more information. When we return, 310-840-4910. Let's take you to San Francisco. You can call or text the show, 310-840-4910. What are the Niners doing, and who is their head coach today? Pete Souza co-hosts, Addie Bates produces, Laura Jimenez runs the board. This is the Drake Toll Show.
The wait is over. Every NFL team is now.
You make
It is the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll alongside Pete Souza. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. 310-840-4910. We got a text out of Alabama. Shannon is on the money to start our 49ers conversation here over Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Ayuk more specifically. So for context, Kyle Shanahan 2 weeks ago got into a car wreck. Pretty bad one. A broken hand, broken ribs, some trauma, 40 stitches in total. For 11 days, members of the media, including ESPN, kept it hidden, silent. They didn't tell you that the head coach of the 49ers had been in a car accident, and he wasn't coaching the 49ers to the fullest extent of his job. Instead, there was an interim, effectively, placed in charge of the franchise. And in the middle of all this, Brandon Ayuk, who is a promising young receiver, couple of 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL, and since then has petered out, has been a part of massive offseason controversies where he's gone publicly to say, I want to be a member of the Washington Commanders. I'm going to go buy a house in the D.C. area and run that team. It seems as though Brandon Ayuk is the only one who's on board with that, not even the Washington Commanders or the 49ers. Shannon from Alabama says, I got to ask about this whole Brandon Ayuk thing with the Niners, because didn't John Lynch come out just before the start of the offseason and say we're moving on from Ayuk? But here we are, the start of training camp, and he's yet to be released or traded. If he doesn't want to be there, and they said they were moving on, why is he still on the roster even when the Niners voided out the rest of his guaranteed money? It's time for our Idiots of the Day.
Idiot of the Day.
Appreciate the text, Shannon from Alabama, 310-840-4910, 310-840-4910. You can call or text the show throughout the duration of our 3 hours together. Pete, I'm not sure how much you followed this Brandon Ayuk story, but it's a weird one, a funky one, and a bad one for pretty much every party involved. He's still technically a 49er today, which I don't think the 49ers really want.
As long as he's still not guzzling red wine or whatever that is, when he's drinking, when he's going Instagram Live and stuff. I mean, that is the ultimate combination. All I think of is, like, could you imagine, like, Ted Williams doing, like, Instagram Live, like, totally hammered, taking shots at Major League Baseball and saying if he didn't have to go to the war, he would have been the best player of all time.
Ted was such a good guy, though. Ted would never have done that.
Ted was pretty selfish. I've read and watched enough. But no, the point is with Ayuk,
Billy Martin would do that. Billy Martin would have been right in the middle of that for sure.
Billy, I think he still figured out a way to do it. Like he was the first. He was Brandon Ayuk before Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
But no, really, I think he's. I don't want to say damaged goods, but clearly they're working through something. It's just not that simple, because you've got Brandon Ayuk. You want to get something in return. So you can't just go ahead and get rid of him and launch him to the moon. So this takes time. And by the way, it's July 28th. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, it's July 20th. But training camp is underway, and every team has reported as of today, July 20th.
Seriously,
I
who cares?
care.
I care too. No. Let's stop. I care. I get so excited that training camps are starting. I love the coverage. I can't wait.
You just said who cares?
Who cares about Brandon Ayuk not being in training camp?
Okay.
Yeah, no. Look, NFL training camp. It's like Christmas is coming, but guys can get there 3 weeks late and still be fine. I think this is why football's amazing, because we are in these silos losing our minds about it. Plenty of time left.
Yep. Another text. Just want to say, Craig in Tacoma. Big fan of the show. Listen every morning and to the podcast. You can listen to every Drake Toll show via podcast, wherever you get your podcast, thanks to Westwood One Sports. Another idiot of the day, anybody who wastes Curt Cignetti's time. Pete, you and I have talked about John Summerall, the Florida coach, who was on the show last week, goes to SEC Media Days and kind of berates a reporter over their phone ringing during his press conference, and it goes sideways. It just wasn't the look that Summerall wanted. Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner at his Media Days, kind of sternly looks at a reporter, says, stand up, ask the question clearly, I'll answer it how I want to answer it. It fell flat. Here's Curt Cignetti bridging the gap between intensity and still notable good guy. Curt?
I think that started once I became a head coach. I learned a lot from a lot of different coaches, and I was with Coach Saban for 4 years, part of his original staff, so I learned a lot from him. But I've always been a little bit on the impatient side. I don't like people wasting my time, but I'm also very organized.
That's just an old ball coach saying, I don't like people wasting my time, not in a theatric way. He's not trying to play it up here. He's saying very clearly, you're not about to walk in my program and put my time that is valuable at risk. That's how you bridge the gap.
Well, and having been around college football and playing football myself and getting to call games now for ESPN and NBC, and you go and you meet with these coaches the day before the game, their time is so precious. You do not waste a head football coach's time, particularly during the season. And those guys are real precious with it. And if you want to see inside, it gets way uglier than that too. That was a real nice PG version of saying, don't waste my time. Do not waste a head coach's time.
Idiot of the day, Jason McIntyre. Let's take you out to Colin Cowherd's show from yesterday, where Mark Schlereth is co-hosting the Herd this week. And this claim about Jason McIntyre is a staple of the show, by the way. This claim about Keenan Allen.
I compared Herbert to Matt Stafford as a guy with a big arm, mobile, really great quarterback. He just can't get over the hump because his team always lets him down, whether it's both tackles are gone. Never had a superstar receiver. Keenan Allen was their best receiver. He's been cut by half the league.
Just so happens, Pete, Keenan Allen played for the Chargers from 2013 to 2025. He's a guy who has not been cut by half the league at all, actually, and had one of the most consistent NFL careers you could have with a franchise. Ooh, not great.
I listened to McIntyre and Rachel Nichols on Friday because I was listening to Westwood after our show, and I was doing kind of all of the national radio shows because I'm a media consumer. I wanted to hear how they were responding to LeBron James being signed.
Ooh.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Colin's got the day off. It's good that Rachel Nichols is in. Like a co-host, and Jason McIntyre is running point. And McIntyre's a guy, he had an empire, right? The big lead that he sold for a ton of money. And then he ended up working with Cowherd. He reads the news. I could only hope he misspoke. Right? It happens to the best of us. I'd like to give him a little bit of grace in this situation. Drake, okay? I'm going to give him a little bit of grace.
Yep. As the guy, not to pick on you, Pete's a pro. Pete is the best there is. He's as good as they get.
As somebody who's been picked on before, I try, because I'll pick on you, but I'm trying to give him a little bit of grace here.
But earlier, when you mentioned Antonio Brown's performance at Patriots training camp this week, let's hope that that's not clipped by other national radio shows over the course of today. It is the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. We're in the middle of our Idiots of the Day. How about this? ESPN releases their odds to make the college football playoff. Number 1, Ohio State. 76% chance to make it out of the Big Ten. Notre Dame is number 2 at 74%. Texas, the third best odds at 70%. And you round out the top 5 with Oregon and Georgia. Notably, LSU, the 10th best odds to make the college football playoff in 2026. And even Clemson is at 17 on the list of the top 20. Pete, you got this graphic in front of you. What jumps off the page?
Well, I think you mentioned Ohio State. I am so surprised.
76%?
That's too high.
That's way too high.
Especially in the way, college football is so transient right now. And we think we know what we have before the season starts, but we really don't. I mean, look at last year with Arch Manning, right? There are surprises around every single corner. And that 76 is way too high. And that's the first thing I see where I'm like, I just can't get down with that. There's no chance I can get down with that. That's way too much. And then SMU at the bottom. I think that's interesting. I think that there is an explosion waiting to happen in Dallas with all the money that has been infused into that program. I think pretty soon, because they're kind of kicking around. They made the college football playoff, got beat down by Penn State last year, kind of a lukewarm year. But Rhett Lashley, he's a tremendous coach, and the resources and the war chest that they have, I think we could see an outburst by SMU this year.
Yeah, the ponies, man, buying stock now. I think that USC at 13th. Now, having them ahead of BYU, who returns the third most production in all of college football, I would have BYU probably the top 10 odds to make the college football playoff and top 10 in general in the AP. Given Bear Bachmeier's return, and again, you return 3, the number 3. most production in the nation from a team that won 12 games. in a Power Four conference. Their matchup with Notre Dame will tell us a lot in the regular season. But USC at 13th, I actually like. I think USC, a lot of young talent, but I like USC to turn, despite a brutal schedule, to turn some heads and turn the table out in Southern California. Those are our idiots of the day. When we return, let's dig deeper into whatever is going on with Kyle Shanahan. Is he the coach today of the 49ers? And as we hit training camp, what's going on with San Francisco? It's Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Pete Souza co-hosting. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. This is the Drake Toll Show.
This.
She's a rich girl, she don't try to hide it. Diamonds on the soles of her shoes. He's a poor boy, empty as a pocket. Empty as a pocket with nothing to lose. Sing ta-na-na, ta-na-na-na. She got diamonds on the soles of her shoes. Ta-na-na, ta-na-na-na. She got diamonds on the soles of her shoes. 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 Say she's crazy, she got diamonds on the soles of her shoes. Well, that's one way to lose these walking blues. Diamonds on the soles of your shoes. She was physically forgotten, but then she slipped into my pocket with my car keys. She said, you've taken me for granted because I please you. Wearing these diamonds. And I could say, ooh, as if everybody knows what I'm talking about. As if everybody here would know exactly what I was talking about. I'm talking about diamonds on the soles of her shoes. She makes the sign of a teaspoon, he makes the sign of a wave. The poor boy changes clothes and he puts on aftershave to compensate for his ordinary shoes. And she said, honey, take me dancing, but they ended up by sleeping in a doorway by the bodegas and the lights on over Broadway, wearing diamonds on the soles of their shoes. And I could say, ooh, and everybody here would know what I was talking about. I mean, everybody here would know exactly what I was talking about. I'm talking about diamonds. People say I'm crazy, I got diamonds on the soles of my shoes, yeah. Well, that's one way to lose these walking blues. Diamonds on the soles of my shoes. Ta-na-na-na, 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 ta-na-na-na.
It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization and Locked On Big 12. There's Pete Souza, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. Addie Bates returns this week from London. There's a little Beatles for you. They're from there. Come on now. Laura Jimenez.
Hey, hang on. That wasn't the Beatles there, pal.
What do you want from me, Pete?
Well, if you say the Beatles, I'd like the Beatles.
All right, Music Tuesday. Addie Bates. Who sings it? Come on, Addie.
That was the Beatles off of their 1969 album, Abbey Road.
I will be seeing you guys tomorrow, or
yeah,
maybe
thank you a lot,
again.
Pete. There he goes.
Well,
there
see, this is what happens. You're the boy who cried wolf.
There he goes, Pete Souza. Always fun to have him. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Pete. Wow, the one time, he goes depressed.
That's what I mean.
Hey there, that's not the Beatles. Yeah, all sexy like, and that little voice you're doing. They're like, hey, I gotta stop you right there. Like, oh, all right, come on there. Come on now. Come on. The Beatles brings us back. It's the 8 o'clock hour Eastern time. Pete Souza, co-hosts. And Pete, man, we hit a lot on. Today's the day. This is, you said Christmas. Great comparison. In the National Football League, today is huge. Every team, every player's at training camp. And if you're not at training camp, that becomes the headline. We're going to know in 4 or 5 hours the guys that just didn't show up, the guys who didn't show up in full capacity, the guys who said, hey, I want to trade. Vita is one of those that yesterday, defensive lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't feel comfortable going to training camp. That's going to continue to dominate the headlines over the course of the next 24 hours. Jerry Jones is going to stand at a podium today and say, I think that we've got as good a shot as anybody to win the Super Bowl. And you and I are going to play the clip tomorrow of Jerry Jones saying they have a good a shot as anybody to win the Super Bowl. We're going to make fun of it. It's what happens when training camp starts.
Shoot it into my veins.
It's
Shoot
what
it
happens.
right into my veins.
It's the best, man. It's the best. We go from, and I've said this about our show. I don't want to do power rankings, Mount Rushmore. Like, don't show up and give me Mount Rushmore, top 5 jerseys that LeBron James has ever worn. And that's what the summer becomes for so many shows is let's power rank the best jerseys that Nike's ever put together. Correct. We finally get out of that era of the offseason and get the tangible stories out of training camp. Guys will get hurt. Guys will get healthy. And we'll know more about how the National Football League season will pan out. What we don't know a lot about, though, is who the head coach of the 49ers is today. Dating back to 2 weeks ago when a car wreck for the head coach, Kyle Shanahan, effectively incapacitated his duties as the head coach of the 49ers and led to an interim-esque tag being placed on somebody. Let's go Chris Forrester. We'll make the assistant head coach the quasi-head coach in the middle of this as he grabs responsibilities from Kyle Shanahan. Why? How? Where? And we went 2 weeks without knowing that Shanahan was in a non-life-threatening but serious car accident. And even Dan Patrick, one of the greats of the game, you and I would both agree there, has put some question marks around the timeline on Shanahan leaving the organization for a few days and now being in a limited role. Here is Dan Patrick.
This came out on Saturday, that Kyle Shanahan, the Niners head coach, had been in a serious car accident. It happened on July 14th, so the Niners kept it quiet for 11 days. I don't know how they did this or why they did this, The Niners posted a statement regarding the accident at midnight Eastern on Saturday. Adam Schefter posted his first tweet on the situation 1 minute later. The ESPN article about the accident published at 1 minute after that. So did you release this to everybody, this information? Why is ESPN holding the information?
That's the big question, Pete. Journalistically, the head coach of an NFL team was in a serious car accident and could not fulfill his duties, and we're finding out about it 2 weeks later. That's a problem.
Well, and it's also a problem that I get that Kyle Shanahan's a great guy and everybody loves him, but that doesn't make him immune to speculation that you or I would be, we would have to undergo and work our way through. And it's very clear that the media in the Bay Area, along with national media, Adam Schefter, right, who literally dropped the story, like Patrick mentioned, like 30 seconds after. And by the way, 12 Eastern, midnight, like the story was released in the all-time media dump. And you have to think that these guys need to start having a little bit more teeth. The media in the Bay Area, the media nationally around the 49ers, and they're getting exposed right now, particularly in the Bay Area. We just have all these questions around the Brandon Ayuk thing, right, that we were just, what is going on there? What in the world is happening there? The Chris Forrester situation, which he's the interim coach or quasi-interim. By the way, it's an amazing comeback story. And I think it speaks to how you can turn your life around, even if it feels like turning an oil tanker around. The guy was caught snorting cocaine in his office on camera when he was an offensive line coach.
In the facility.
Yeah, in the Dolphins facility in 2016. Yeah. Loses his job, gets sober, comes back. I haven't really even seen any reporting on that. And I would trumpet it as an amazing comeback story, but that's like got nothing to see here. And I don't want to be one of the guys on like social media that's like, hey, are we not going to talk about this? But like at some point, we got to take the kid gloves off and realize this is the NFL, and I hate to be one of those guys, the National Football League, where you really have to grind and report day to day and break stories that people don't want you to break. That's the job. Not breaking the story that people say, hey, wait 5 minutes, we'll release it, then you can break it first. That's not how it goes. This is showing us a vulnerability in the football media right now, writers especially.
And this is the stuff that happens for your small town Christian school. This is what happens at University of Mary Hardin Baylor. If the University of Mary Hardin Baylor head coach gets a DUI, there's a very good chance no one's touching that story. The local media is not going to go after it. No one. And it's a part of what festers in these small media camps. So for those who are unfamiliar, Pete, you and I have been in these scrums, in these rooms, been around these reporters, and what happens is you grow relationships with SIDs, that being Sports Information Director. And the way it works is every head coach has their effective communications handler. So for a Kyle Shanahan, he has Brad in the corner. Brad in the corner's job is to make sure Kyle Shanahan looks good at all times. Kyle walks to the podium, and Brad says, all right, we'll take questions. You from NBC, you from CBS. And then if the questions go too far, Brad's the guy that steps up and says, hey, coach can't comment on that at this time. The press conference is over. The president has one of these. Every governor has one of these. Every college football coach and NFL coach has one of these. It's their job to protect the organization and the view of the organization. What happens for the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats is Brad in the corner does not have the power to stop the media from reporting cleanly and clearly on what they believe to be scandal, controversy, or positivity around the program. What happens at a Baylor, Pete, you and I worked around there for a while, is it's niche. It varies by your little pods, your ecosystems of reporters. So I'm in Waco, Texas, and Baylor loses 42-13 to Oklahoma. First question is a guy from the Waco Tribune-Herald in the front row. Dave, it seemed like your defense figured out a little bit more in the third quarter, but tough day overall. And that's the question. That's the media scrum. I was at a press conference with Kim Mulkey. I brought this up yesterday. Kim Mulkey, the current LSU Tigers women's basketball coach, national champion of Baylor. I ask a question. She goes nuclear on God and everybody. and Brad in the corner walks to the front of the room and says, hey, if you guys could just scratch that answer and just not use it in your reporting. And everyone complied. Every reporter in the room took something the head coach said publicly and said, as to not upset Brad or to upset this organization, I'm not going to report on this. I'm not going to talk about this after the head coach just said it to God and everybody. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, not the University of Mary Hardin Baylor Crusaders. We're talking about a media that has, you are the watchdog, right? You're taught from day one in media, you are the watchdog. And Brad's not supposed to like you. Brad's not supposed to be your friend. You're not supposed to get drinks with Brad after the game. You're supposed to be the person who communicates to the fans, to America, to the world, here's what's going on behind closed doors that I know about that I can't report on. Now, not to say that this happens. There was scandal at Baylor that you'll never hear about where, a student athlete had written a racially charged message and it had written it on like a pencil, or they'd put it on, they just etched it into a pencil. This is a crazy story. And then drop it on the floor, and a black student finds it. You'll never hear that story because the only people who knew that were in the classroom, right? And I was a sophomore in college. I wasn't about to get, it's not my job to tweet out, hello, this is, and those things happen every day across the board where you find a story, you find a thing, you're like, man, what do we do with this? This isn't one of those. This isn't a question, but it's not I'm a sophomore, oh my gosh, what's happening right now, and I don't have all the details and facts, and I'm confused, and this student's upset at that student, they're in a fight now. Like, I don't have the capacity to, what do I do? This is grown adults who have been covering the 49ers for 40 years who see the head coach got into a car accident and can't be the head coach, and somehow they're bending at the will of Brad in the corner to not say ding about it. That's a problem.
It's a big problem, and you make a great point. This is not a Mickey Mouse league. It's the NFL. And I think a couple things are at play here. One, I think it needs to be said that it pays to be a rock-solid guy. And what I mean about that is, by all accounts, people love Kyle Shanahan. And I think that he has earned grace and a little bit of wiggle room with the media there. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that is a fact. I think if it's a different personality, that people are quicker to publish a story about this. The second thing I will say is that when you see the totality of this whole situation, it is the job of the media, especially the local media, because you're there every day, to take these guys to task and to blow this story up. But the problem is you've got to go every day and face Brad in the corner and face Kyle Shanahan, right? So then you're worried, am I going to get, and this says something about NFL PR, NBA PR, MLB PR, like they can not necessarily, they won't pull your credential if you're with a major outlet, but they can freeze you out.
Absolutely.
They can certainly freeze, they can make your life miserable. And the one thing you said, Drake, that I push back on is, and I think we need more of this, and we're not too far off, because you and I call games all over the country, and, I don't report gossip, or I'm not digging for stories per se. So I have really good relationships with SIDs, but I would still encourage, I still want the beat writers and the SIDs drinking together. I do. I want those guys. Yeah, and when I say SID, I mean Sports Information Director, the people, the czar, Brad in the corner that Drake was talking about. But those relationships need to be fluid, where I need to say to you, and this goes back to Rossini and Vrabel, like, look, dude, I have information about you, and I've got to report it. And you're going to be pissed at me. And we're going to have to work through that on the back end, but I'm dropping this story because that's what I do. And there have been a very strong relationship between writer and subject since the beginning of time, where you can still do that and still do your job, get granted access. And actually, if you can do that and find the stones to do it, you're doing a kick-ass job.
And look, to use an extreme example here, if a player, let's go back to Kobe. I remember, everybody remembers where they were the day that you found out Kobe Bryant died in a tragic helicopter accident. There's a difference between, hey, the family doesn't know, keep this close to the vest for the next 15 minutes, we've got to tell his wife. That's a whole different thing. That becomes a moral kind of human interest. And I'm not even saying that TMZ is this evil, terrible, bad. I mean, they're watchdogging in their own right. But for me, there are times where you have to, and you learn this in like journalism ethics classes, where you've got to deduce, okay, they're asking me so that his wife can find out, and I'm not the one to tell his wife via an article or a tweet. That's a different situation. In this, and it's why I want to push back. By the way, hey, It's the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app, talking Kyle Shanahan's car accident. Chris Sims did a whole rant on this yesterday via Pro Football Talk, and it was this kind of almost dour, like, guys, Kyle Shanahan almost lost his eye. This is so tragic for him and his family, and for people to be pushing back and prodding on this. Like, no, I understand the traumatic aspect of this. I understand it's not a very easy situation to navigate, and much of this is very difficult. Of course, it doesn't change the fact a National Football League head coach cannot fulfill his duties as head coach. That is public information. That is knowledge that we should have. And there are more details where now there are police reports that say he had a cell phone in his hand, and the police won't be very clear on the details of the accident. They won't be very clear on who was at fault in the accident. There are more questions than answers. That's only going to point to controversy. It's only going to build controversy around this.
How about Chris Sims, by the way, yesterday? He basically granted him an alibi. He's like, he was leaving the chiropractor. I was like, okay. And by the way, do we have time for a quick story?
Yeah, hit me. We got about 2 minutes here, Pete.
Okay. So this is how it should be done, even though I was the one to get burnt, okay? I was working public relations for the Philadelphia 76ers. I was a public relations manager, sort of high up in that totem pole. I had access to information. Larry Brown was in our organization. I had previously worked at the Charlotte Hornets, right? Larry was going to get hired by the Hornets. So the Hornets public relations czar, Brad in the corner, sent me a message. I need Larry Brown's bio. We're going to hire him. I send him Larry's bio from the Sixers offices, which we have. I'm so excited. I'm younger. I go down the hall. I tell the Sixers beat writer, Phil Jasner, for years. He's a legend in the Hall of Fame. I said, Phil, you're never going to believe it. The Charlotte, they were the Bobcats at the time, are going to hire Larry Brown. I can't believe it. I said, you cannot tell anybody. All right? It's between me and you, off the record. The next day, I wake up. There's a story in the Charlotte Observer that Larry Brown's getting hired by the Charlotte Bobcats. And my friend, former boss, is like, dude, I told you not to tell anybody. What did you do? I said, I told Phil Jasner. It was off the record. I marched to Phil the next day. I'm working for the Sixers. We had a playoff game that night against the Pistons. I'm like, Phil, what the heck? It was off the record. He looks at me. He goes, Pete, too big a story. Couldn't do it. I had to give it to Rick Bonnell. He needs the break. I had to give it to him. And he basically was like, no, I'm not playing your game, dude. Like, it's too big a deal. And I learned a lot about, now that was kind of a BS move by Phil, but at the end of the day, it was the truth. Yeah. And the truth got out there. And a guy like Phil Jasner isn't cutting corners for anybody, especially a young guy, sowing his oats. But I thought that was super interesting and a lesson learned by me.
Well worth the time. Thank you, Pete. He is Pete Souza co-hosting. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. When we come back, ESPN's Matt Schick joins the Drake Toll Show. ESPN's released its college football playoff odds, and there are some funky ones in here. Certainly Matt can help us unfold all of it as we get ready for fall camp and college football. Who are the true contenders? Is your team in line to win a national championship? This is Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. This is the Drake Toll Show.
What you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny, but yo, I'm making money, see? So yo, world, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round. I'm the new fool in town, and my sound's laid down by the underground. I drink a bottle of Hennessy you got on your shelf, so just let me introduce myself. My name is Humpty, pronounced with the umpty. Yo, ladies, oh, how I like to funk thee. And all the rappers in the top 10, please allow me to bump thee. I'm stepping tall, y'all, and just like Humpty Dumpty, you're gonna fall when the stereos pump me. I like to rhyme, I like my beats funky, I'm spunky. I like my oatmeal lumpy, I'm sick with this. Straight gangster Mac. But sometimes I get ridiculous. I'll eat up all your crackers and your licorice. Oh, yo, fat girl, come here, are you ticklish? Yeah, I called you fat. Look at me, I'm skinny. It never stopped me from getting busy. I'm a freak. I like the girls with the broom. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. I'm crazy. Allow me to amaze thee. They say I'm ugly, but it just don't faze me. I'm still getting in the girls' pants, and I even got my own dance. The Humpty Dance is your chance to do the hump. Come on. Do the Humpty Hump. Come on, do the Do the Humpty Hump. People say you're Humpty, you're really funny looking. That's alright, cause I get things cooking. You stare, you glare, you constantly try to compare me, but you can't get near me. I'm giving more C, and on the floor B, all the girls, they adore me. Oh yes, ladies, I'm really being sincere, cause in the 69, my Humpty nose will tickle your rear. My nose is big. I'm not ashamed, big like a pickle. I'm still getting paid. I get laid by the ladies, you know I'm in charge. Both how I'm living and my nose is large. I get stupid, I shoot an arrow like Cupid. I use a word that don't mean nothing, like Luke did. I sang on Do What You Like, and if you missed it, I'm the one who said just grab them in the biscuits. Also told you that I like to bite. Well, yeah, I guess it's obvious I also like to write. All you had to do was give Humpty a chance, and now I'm gonna do my dance. The Humpty dance is your chance to do the hump. Come on. Yeah, sexy lady. Do the Humpty Hump. Come on, I'll do the Humpty Hump. Sexy baby. Everybody, come on and do the Humpty Hump. Oh, do you know what we're doing? We're doing the Humpty Hump, y'all. I'll do the Humpty Hump. Watch me do the Humpty Hump. Yeah, that's the break, y'all. Let me that bass groove right here. Yeah. Now that I told y'all a little bit about myself, let me tell you a little bit about this dance. It's real easy to do. Check it out. First I limped to the side like my leg was broken, shaking and twitching, kinda like I was smoking. Crazy, whack, funky. People say you look like MC Hammer on crack, Humpty. That's alright, cause my body's in motion. It's supposed to look like a fit or a convulsion. Anyone can play this game. This is my dance, y'all. Humpty Hump's my name. No two people will do it the same. You got it down when you appear to be in pain. Humping, funkin', jumping, dig around, shaking your rump. And when a doodle chump punk points a finger like a stunt, tell him step off. I'm doing the hump. The Humpty dance, here's your chance to do the hump. Everybody, I do the Humpty Hump. Come on, I do the Humpty Hump. Sexy lady, I do the Humpty Hump. I'm doing the Humpty Hump. When the Humpty Hump, y'all. Watch me do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Black people, I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Come on, white people, I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Puerto Ricans, I do the Humpty Hump. Just keep on doing the hump. Samoans, do the Humpty Hump. Do the Humpty Hump. Yeah. Let's get stupid. I do the Humpty Hump. I do the Humpty Hump. Everybody do the Humpty Hump. Do the Humpty Hump. Give me the middle leg. Come on and do the Humpty Hump. Give me the middle leg. Do you know we're doing the Humpty Hump? Yeah. Gonna break it down. Yeah, sexy lady. Once again, the underground is in the house. I'd like to send a shout out to the whole world. Keep on doing the Humpty dance. And to all the ladies, peace and humpiness forever.
Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain.
It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. Pete Souza, NBC Sports and ESPN play-by-play co-hosts. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. Let's take you to college football NFL training camp today. Everybody is there, but the pipeline has grown more and more controversial. And in college football, over the course of the last couple of weeks and media days as they've unfolded, you've heard a lot of conversation about protect college sports and NIL and salary caps and how to fix the whole thing. But the dominant storyline, the dominant headline today, Michael Lombardi and the University of North Carolina Tar Heels, right alongside Bill Belichick, has been placed on paid leave. Here he is from ESPN, Matt Schick, joining the Drake Toll Show. Matt, really appreciate your time up early with us this morning. And another feather in the hat of the UNC tenure for Bill Belichick being marred in controversy. Is the timeline running out? And we're only 1 year in. Is the timeline running out on Bill Belichick, the NFL's greatest, as a college football coach?
Yeah, it felt like the timeline was running out when you heard about, the young girlfriend. I mean, it just felt like if you're not going to win, then what are we doing here? And last year, you win 4 games. They did get better as the year went on. They did, they were close to winning a few other games, but you're not getting paid $10 million a year to go 4-8. And, admittedly, even Dan Wetzel has the story out talking about how, they were signing guys that didn't have offers or offers they didn't want. And they signed players in the portal that were available. They were running late and running on a lot of them. And so those quotes are pretty stunning. They weren't ready for last year. And that was with Michael Lombardi. And now, a month before their Week 0 game against TCU, he gets put on paid administrative leave. And I can't recall anyone put on paid administrative leave when they come back and say, oh, we're good now. We've done the investigation. This whole thing's been an embarrassment. I hope, for North Carolina's sake, I live here in Charlotte, a lot of Tar Heel fans around here, that they can turn it around. But you'd be hard-pressed to believe that there's no real evidence that they were going to do that.
Hey, Matt, Pete Souza. In the wake of SEC Media Days, the conference is feeling more vulnerable than ever. And maybe that's just, talking season not going as well as Greg Sankey would have liked. Or I guess my question to you is this the year the SEC kind of comes back down to earth?
Well, I mean, when you say come back down to earth, do you mean like regress to the championships? Because this is a conference that hasn't played for one in the last 3 years. And when you say vulnerable, like, it's the messaging last week, I would say was curious but not surprising, because when you're not playing for a championship in the last 3 years, you're not winning one. Even Nick Saban, who I still consider an SEC coach in a lot of ways, doing a great job with ESPN, says, winning a championship is not how you define who the best conference is. And I've always said, those who say that are usually those that haven't won a championship in a while. Your talking point for the SEC, your new talking point can't be national championships are an overrated conference metric, when that was what you hung your hat on for years and years. And so the playing field's been leveled now with the Big Ten. The Big Ten was always, going into media days, trying to put a positive spin on life, even though they couldn't win a national title. And now they've won 3 straight with 3 different teams. They have a chance to do 4 straight with 4 different teams. That hasn't been done since the SEC did it about close to 20 years ago. I think the SEC is in a very interesting spot where 4 of the top 5 teams in terms of betting odds to win it all are not from the Southeastern Conference. And so it's incumbent upon, teams like Texas, teams like Georgia, to remind folks where the SEC stands. But I point to Nick Saban's retirement. Like, Alabama's almost an afterthought going into this season, and that's hard to believe. And when you're one of your bell cows over the last 20 years, your best team over the last 20 years is an afterthought, I think that has a trickle-down effect.
ESPN's Matt Schick joining the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. Matt, the Warden Manuel situation, we're starting to see more and more details unfold as the athletic director at Michigan will step down at the end of the year and get $7 million in the departure. For a guy that's overseen a national title in college basketball, men's basketball, as well as football, everything about this situation has been odd. This just strikes the oddity nerve on the news values. Losing an athletic director like this in college football, has Michigan handled this the correct way? And maybe more importantly, how did Warden Manuel get here?
Well, Warden Manuel is a good athletic director. He's had a good track record in the past. But his time there at Michigan it's the yin and the yang. It's winning national championships with a lot of controversy surrounding it. The cloud that hung over the Wolverines when they won it a few years ago, the Connor Stallions issue, you have the Sharon Moore off the field terrible incident that they had. You have Mel Pearson with hockey, with him getting fired for conduct issues. There's a lot that has been happening here. And I do wonder, he's going to get more than $7 million to receive there. And he's getting tickets to Michigan games, golf privileges, $100,000 contribution to his retirement account. They're paying his attorney fees. It's almost like you need to get out of here, but thank you for all that you've done. And I don't know if they just didn't want to fire him because then there could be some litigation because of money owed to him. So they just said, let's just do this on the up and up. But he's a Michigan guy as well. Like, he played football there. And so I think they want to treat their own well. And had they not won national championships in basketball and football, maybe we're having a different conversation about his exit.
Hey, Matt, what's one team you think in the top 10 that you're selling on right now? Like, who do you think could be this year's Florida State? A bit of a paper champion coming into the season.
That's a good question.
Matt, this will be clipped and put on Twitter, by the way. Just putting you out there.
I'm not trying to set you up, dude.
I appreciate it. Like, the top 25 stuff hasn't even come out yet, but I know what you're saying. Like, your top 10 teams that might take a dip here this season. I would look at a team that's real trendy right now. I don't mean a team that's going to dump out of the top 25, but I am curious on a team like Oklahoma. They've got the schedule, but they go to Michigan, they go to Georgia, they've got the Red River game with Texas, they're at Florida, they've got A&M. They're one of those trendy. Hey, with John Mateer, and I kind of fell into the trap when I saw him at the Manning Passing Academy. Like, this guy looks ready to go. And there is a sense that Oklahoma, who, by the way, has the head coach who's the oldest in the SEC, and Brent Venables is only 55. That shows you where this league is at. But I just think if they slip up at Michigan, if they start the year 2-2 or 2-3, which is a legit possibility, then we're looking at a team that's probably on the outside of the top 25, by the time we get to mid-October.
Matt Schick, ESPN, joining the Drake Toll Show. Matt, I'll make it a little easier for you, but I like that Pete took us to the actual gridiron and how things will play out this fall. I'm looking at teams. ESPN released their college football playoff odds, chance to make the CFP. And that there's the holding zone of USC and BYU, Michigan, Clemson, SMU is in there. Out of that zone, kind of this 10 through 20, is there one team that you think is grossly underrated or even underrated to the point they will make the college football playoff despite being against the odds?
I would say out of a group like that, I'm going to go with USC. I'm buying the stock there. This will be the best defense. This will be the best defense that Lincoln Riley has had. When you've got an experienced senior quarterback like Jaden Mayava, who's been there, he understands what's expected. They've got some pretty good transfer wide receivers as well. And when you look at their two deep, they've got guys that have just been in the system. They only have 4 transfers in the most recent two deep that is speculated upon, and that's a significant thing. They only have 2 transfers in the two deep on offense in the predicted offense of two deep. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with USC. I haven't looked at their schedule recently. Let's see here. I'm going to load it up. They've got Oregon, they've got Ohio State, but both of those are at home, and then they're at Indiana. If they can somehow go 1-2 or 2-1 in those games, win the rest, I think there's a legit possibility this team goes 10-2 and is right there on the doorstep of the playoff. Because if you go 10-2, it means you've won a significant game over a top 10 team. And I think with the addition of Gary Patterson, who's now the defensive coordinator, I'm more curious than ever about how this Trojans team's going to do.
Yeah. Pete?
Well, Matt, one more for you. The Big 12, they're constantly, on a quest to try to get 2 teams into the college football playoff. What has to happen for the Big 12 to get 2 teams in? I mean, I call a bunch of Big 12 games. I know Drake, Big 12 country. That's a curiosity around these parts.
Well, if you look at the preseason kind of expectations for this, it actually shapes up pretty well for that to happen. It just means, but the margin for error is still slim. BYU and Texas Tech are your two bell cows, unless there's a surprise team that jumps up there like in Arizona with Fafi. Like there are guys there are players and teams that could maybe make a jump.
Yeah.
But if it's BYU and Texas Tech, if that's the expectation, BYU and Texas Tech don't play each other in the regular season. Now BYU does play Notre Dame. If they win that game, they could lose the Big 12 championship and still make the college football playoff. If they lose that game, considering the rest of their schedule, they'd probably have to beat an undefeated Texas Tech, and then both get in. I think that's the path here. But you heard at SEC Media Days, Pete, you heard the priming of the pump by the SEC of, hey, a 9-3 team should get in from the SEC because now we're going to a 9-game conference schedule. And BYU is probably sitting there going, what do you mean? Like, we were 11-1 going into the conference championship game last year. We lost that game, and we were out. And then you have Alabama that gets railroaded in their SEC championship game. It doesn't move at all. Like, you guys are already getting the benefit of the doubt, so stop your whining. So it's not about wins and losses. If it were, BYU would have made it last year. But to your point that you're making, that's probably the best case scenario. And I think they're both equipped to do that. It's just, I think the SEC would like you in the Big 12 to say, look, you better be undefeated, and if you're not, you're out. And I don't think that's realistic.
ESPN's Matt Schick. You can find him at ESPN_Schick on Twitter and all over those 4 letters, as well as off campus on SiriusXM. Matt, again, so grateful for your time this early and being with us, giving us college football perspective. We are, I promise, we're only like a month away from the actual games themselves. We can stop the whole offseason talk.
Yeah, stop the courtroom stuff and the paid administrative leave and protect college sports act. Let's actually get to playing sports. Looking forward to it. Anytime, guys.
Love it. Thanks again,
Matt.
He's Matt Schick, ESPN again, at ESPN_Schick. Great stuff, Pete. Just to put a bow on that one, I love what he said about, I mean, he gave more details on Ward Manuel getting the package, like golf stipend to leave Michigan. We're paying you to leave.
What in the world?
It sounds like Michigan is doing this to avoid shame. Like, how do we get Ward Manuel out of here? Because they need it for some reason that has still not come to light to us. That it doesn't seem to be an obvious reason outside of the scandals that have piled up. How do they get him out of here as quietly as possible so nobody talks about it? He's the athletic director of one of the most prominent college football, college athletic powerhouses out there, and no one's really bringing it up because Michigan's handled this so well from a PR standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, people say in basketball circles, dude, that like that's one of the reasons Dusty May left, because there were resources that weren't going to be granted to the basketball program that Dusty May felt like he had coming to him. Now, there's also another camp that says he wanted to go to the NBA anyways, and the opportunity presented itself. But there was some stuff that could have contributed to on-the-field play as well, and he had navigated that masterfully when you look at a basketball championship and then a football title just a few years ago. It's hard to get fired, or whatever this is, in the wake of 2 huge championships in the biggest sports your school plays. And this, I haven't seen this before.
No, he's gone. The golf thing's crazy to me. Just access to golf courses for you to leave is awesome. Great stuff from Matt Schick. When we come back, let's take you to NFL.
He was a Michigan guy, right? So he played for Bo Schembechler. That's a part of it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't – anybody else would say, hey, I say anybody. You've seen it where they fire the coach who's an alum, where they fire the AD who's an alum, and it is a dumpster fire. Michigan's done everything they can to make this hush-hush, and it's effectively worked. When we come back, Christmas Day, NFL training camp underway. Every team, all 32, are reporting. Let's take you out to the biggest storylines, including Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs, are they the number 1 contender to be back in the Super Bowl race? I think so, because that ACL is healthy. It's Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. This is the Drake Toll Show.
Waiting for the man every night and day, and I never lost.
It is the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app. Drake Toll with you from the Savannah Bananas organization and Locked On Big 12. There's Pete Souza, ESPN and NBC Sports play-by-play. Addie Bates produces. Laura Jimenez runs the board. 310-840-4910. You can call or text the show. Text line's been blowing up all day today about NFL training camp and from across the country and the storylines. The 49ers have dominated that. The Kansas City Chiefs have also dominated that. And Pete, we talked a lot yesterday about Patrick Mahomes' return from an ACL injury and how he's back already at training camp. And then today, you get news yesterday, and then today it's kind of you're hearing more details of Eric Bieniemy's wife, who is shot by their son. Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs, has made his return after a 3-year hiatus coaching elsewhere. His return as the OC behind Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And on Sunday, his wife, who is at this point, as of our latest update, still in the hospital, serious injuries, but alive and trending upward, was shot by their son Elijah Bieniemy, 27 years old. He was arrested in Loudoun County, Virginia, and all the momentum we had yesterday for the Kansas City Chiefs kind of falls out in the last 24 hours as you find out they're now dealing with tragedy as Bieniemy has left the team, and understandably so.
Yeah, and it's such an awful situation, but, nobody better to be the steward of this than Andy Reid. His relationship with Eric Bieniemy goes back to 1999 when Bieniemy was a player for him on the Philadelphia Eagles. There was a terrible Eagles team, too. And then they start coaching together. This would be their 11th year working together. Of course, Bieniemy working for Reid. And it's almost the worst kind of deja vu. In 2012, Andy Reid lost his son to a drug overdose at the dorms at Lehigh College, where the Philadelphia Eagles were having training camp, literally at the start of camp. And Andy Reid has dealt with a lot of personal tragedy in his own life. I think Eric Bieniemy knows where to go to find solace in a time like this, but it's unspeakable what happened to him, and you have no idea what he's going through. You can only see that the support system he has in place right now is a good one for anybody going through that.
Yeah, you said the line off the top of the show talking about this kind of silver lining, and it's tough to find or talk silver lining.
Yeah, that term seems kind of out of place in this situation.
100%.
Right?
But the solace in the fact that, thank God, Mia Bieniemy's alive. It's hospitalized, stable condition. They're on the deepest, darkest side of how this could have gone. At the root, at a pillar of this for Eric Bieniemy, in facing tragedy, he still has his wife, Mia Bieniemy, and now you grapple with effectively losing your son, Elijah Bieniemy, who was the alleged culprit in this, and navigating that as a family while also being the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, who are in the running as a Super Bowl favorite or favorite to win the AFC. We have audio from the reaction of Andy Reid when he addressed the media yesterday. I want to keep in mind with this, Andy Reid has had probably less than 24 hours to have collected his own thoughts about how to respond to this publicly and privately with his offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. And the public took some of these comments out of context and have ran with it against Andy Reid. Here is Reid yesterday addressing the media.
This is our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy and his family. Thoughts and prayers are with them. I can't get into details on it, but things happen sometimes, and Eric will work through it. He's got a great support group here, as does his family, as needed, and then we'll just let time take care of it from there. But Mia is stable, which is a plus, and so is Eric Jr., and that's all important, all right?
Yeah, people grabbed onto the line, but things happen sometimes. And I guess if you just read that, right, in an ESPN article, it becomes a bit more. But given the context of what Andy Reid said, the spirit of how he's saying it, that's a guy who, once again, you could hear it in his voice, less than 24 hours to collect his own thoughts about a guy that he loves, a family that he loves, going through tragedy, and now he, as the head coach of the Chiefs, has to meet it head on.
Yeah, probably could have used a better choice of words, but if you think that Andy Reid is saying that and sort of like shaking this off like that, like you're a complete dingbat. Yeah. Like Andy Reid is saying basically things happen, like horrible tragedy hits families, and we come together and we work through them. You could hear it in his voice. You know it in his experience. I mentioned losing his son Garrett to drug overdose. His son Britt, who's actually a buddy of mine, who's sober. I'm sober. Britt had his run-ins with the Kansas City Chiefs, if you remember, prior to a Super Bowl, getting into an accident outside the facility. Like Andy had to deal with that. There's been a lot of hardship in Andy Reid's life, and he knows how to navigate this in the best way possible. Forget about picking apart a word he says or a phrase he uses. I think that's low rent at a time like this.
Yep. A little more uplifting, a little more positive. Pete, as we close the show, Aaron Donald, potential comeback with the Los Angeles Rams. As we hit training camp, we've heard from Sean McVay, who says it's pie in the sky. But if there's something to follow, and I'm watching right now across Twitter and national networks, everybody's there, all 32. Every player is showing up today. We're going to hear from guys like we'll hear from Jerry Jones. We'll get his thoughts on the Super Bowl run for the Dallas Cowboys. Aaron Donald and an option to come out of retirement. I mean, why not? If you've got an opportunity to play for a Rams team that looks this good and is this loaded, why not bring the guy back?
Well, the biggest thing with Aaron Donald, I think the biggest misconception is like, oh, he's going to come back and he'll play just a few snaps here and there. It's like, dude, it's Aaron Donald. He's not coming back to play a few snaps, right? And he's also not running around with a helmet and shoulder pads on in July if he doesn't mean business. You talk to any guy that's a longtime football player. If you're running around with that equipment on at the end of July, something's going on, and you're motivated about it. So I think this is like best case scenario for the Rams. You've got an Aaron Donald who seems to be pretty hungry right now.
All right. You ready for this, Pete? Addy, you ready?
Dead or alive?
Always.
Dead or alive. Yeah.
Always.
It is time for Dead or Alive. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Dead or Alive. Pete, I'm going to give you a list of names. We're going to start, go one by one. And you tell me, is this celebrity dead or alive? Pete, round one, question one. Dead or alive, Lori Loughlin. Dead or alive?
Alive.
Addy?
Very alive.
Lori Loughlin is alive today. Full House. She was Aunt Becky on Full House, and then in the whole scandal where she paid for her kid to go to college. Oops. 62 years old. Happy birthday. Dead or alive, Georgia Engel, Addy. She is an actress from the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
We'll kill her.
Ooh, Pete.
Dead.
Georgia Engel is dead. Which was she the mom in Everybody Loves Raymond? She was the mom in Everybody Loves Raymond. Also known for that. Dead or alive today, Pete, Elizabeth Berkley from Saved by the Bell.
Alive.
Addy?
Alive. I liked his confidence.
Only 54 years old. You got to play the game, man. Pete, you got to be like, oh, I don't know, and then you got to play it up. From Crystal City, Missouri, William Bradley, Bill Bradley, basketball player turned politician. Addy.
I'm gonna kill him.
This is an old head. You're a basketball guy, Pete. Bill Bradley, dead or alive?
Bill Bradley is alive.
He's listening to the show as we speak. Bill Bradley, former senator from New Jersey, is alive. 1979 to 97 was a senator. Also,
NBA champion.
Olympian, too. Bill Bradley, alive. Dead or alive today. This is a tough one. I'm 50-50. Liz Cheney, dead or alive? Addy?
Alive.
Pete?
Alive.
Liz Cheney's alive. Pete knows a lot of alive people here. This is pretty impressive what's happening. All right, Pete. Dead or alive, the rock pianist, Richard Wright.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what did you just say?
The rock pianist.
Pianist.
Oh.
Richard Wright.
I thought we were talking about Dwayne Johnson, an appendage of his. No, okay. I will say he is dead.
Okay, Addy?
The only members from Pink Floyd still alive are everyone but him and Sid Barrett, so he's dead.
Rich is dead. Yeah, he was Pink Floyd, the drummer. All right, Scott Pelley.
Not the drummer.
Sorry,
that's
the guitarist.
Nick Mason.
All right, whoa. Scott Pelley, dead or alive? Addy?
Alive, because I don't know who that is.
Pete?
He's alive, but he's dead inside after leaving 60 minutes.
60 minutes. Yeah, come on. 60 minutes. Got time for one more. The cartoonist Jim Davis, dead or alive? Pete?
Dead.
Addy?
Alive.
He is 81 years old and alive today. Garfield. He's the Garfield guy. All right, Hugo Chavez, Addy, is your final one.
Oh, my God. I'm killing him.
Oh, Pete?
I'm going to say he's passed away.
Yeah, we'll call it a tie. Hugo Chavez, the former leader of Venezuela, is dead. Addy Bates produces. Pete Sue's co-host, and Laura Jimenez runs the board to Armin Williams, Bruce Gilbert, Colin Jones, and Ryan McGuire. Thank you for a job. We sure do love doing this show. You Better You Bet is coming up. This has been, and it always will be, on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app. See you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. It is the Drake Toll Show.